One thing about me is that I've always loved looking at movies. The reason why is simple. You find so many parallels between them in gaming. Take Shrek for example. That film was originally made to lampoon the world of Disney, but what's crazy is that while it started as a parody, it eventually became its own entity. And today, Shrek is a household name. We've seen this happen in games too. Virtua Fighter inspired Tekken to step into the world of 3D fighting games, and from there, Tekken carved out its own legacy. That's a common trope in entertainment. Something starts in the shadow of another, then grows into its own identity. Few franchises embody that more than Saints Row. Back in 2006, it started with a gang simulator that lampooned the growing open world genre. For those who played it, it wasn't just a GTA clone, it was a rival. Still, the shadow of Rockstar loomed large. When Saints Row 2 dropped in 2008, many fans considered it the opus of the series, the entry that truly found an identity. Its story paralleled the behind-the-scenes struggles of Volition itself. But again, critics couldn't stop slapping that GTA clone label. So, in 2011, Volition took another swing, and this time, they went full Hollywood. Welcome to episode 3 of the Saints Row Takeover. Today, we're dropping into Steelport with Saints Row the Third.
I started out with nothing. Just a kid from the streets with nothing to lose. Once I joined the 3rd Street Saints, everything started going my way.
All right, everybody listen up. We got some serious shit to discuss.
You earned your colors today.
I think it's time we give those other crews a wake-up call. The Saints used to own Stilwater, and it seems like the only that remember that is me and Gat.
Shit took me half the time.
Welcome to the 3rd Street Saints. Let's get down to business.
Before we dive in, I want to give my special thank you to Angel de la Muerte, who helped me out with my Prince build for this video. I've been trying to make that character for a long time, and it means a lot. Cheers to you. Also, if you're a Saints Row fan, I highly recommend checking out Mr. Saint Godzilla's 21 recent video about his visit to Volition. I really enjoyed it because I've always been curious about what goes on behind the scenes. If you enjoy my videos, that's another one I think you'll get a lot out of. Now, if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm the Retro Phantom Digital Handshake. If you enjoy long-form retrospectives, you come to the right place. I post videos every Saturday diving into the history, context, and deeper meanings of some of your favorite games. If you enjoy this one, a thumbs up goes a long way, especially with YouTube's algorithm. And if you want to hang out here every week, hit subscribe. Lastly, if you're feeling generous, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. With that said, let's dive into this. Now, if this isn't your first Saints Row retrospective, you already know the origin story, so feel free to skip ahead. I'll give you a second to do that now. Alright, for everyone else, back in 2003, Volition held a design exercise with the team experimenting with different genres. One idea stood out, a gang simulator. At the time, the open world market was still small. Grand Theft Auto was the only major player, and Volition saw an opening. If they could carve out their own corner of that sandbox, they might have something big. In those early brainstorming sessions with NWA's F the Police blasting in the background, the foundation for what would become Saints Row started to take shape. Originally, the project went by the name Bling Bling and was planned for the PlayStation 2, but as the vision grew, so did the scope. The name changed, the tech evolved, and what began as a risky experiment would soon become Saints Row, a series that would leave its mark on open world gaming forever.
We had this design exercise, this was one of the first times we'd done it at the studio. We invited everyone to participate in coming up with new game ideas.
One of the ideas was this gang simulator. first-person shooter, gang simulator, real straightforward, nasty little game. And we were talking about it, and to me, the idea of doing that didn't make sense, but what made sense to me was to go where the audience was, but there wasn't a lot of competitors. And for us, that was open world. There was nobody doing those games. It was just basically GTA. And my attitude was, there's 8 million people playing those games. No one's been able to succeed. We're a very high-tech group. Why don't we take a shot at this? And instead of trying to do all kinds of different things like role-playing games and first-person shooters and all this sort of stuff, why don't we just try and focus all of our skills into one area, which would be open world.
So we cobbled together this vision trailer by taking clips from movies and clips from other games and cut it to a hip-hop song name I can't remember, the song I can't remember, but yeah, it was Fuck the Police, that was it. And we played that in the boardroom, and there was dead silence afterwards, and the CFO says, is this really the kind of game that we want to be making? And they talked about, we're near LA, gangs are a serious matter here, we have gang fights, we have gang riots, we have a lot of people being killed. Brian Farrell, the CEO, said, someone's going to make games like this, I believe in this, and we're going to make this game. And then we came up with rules like there will be no children, you can't kill the police, which that rule fell away, and I forget what a lot of the other ones were. It was, people were very nervous about what we were doing there. I think some of them were probably worried, someone's going to throw bricks through my window or something like that.
It was an interesting struggle. There were people who were not happy with what we were making there. I mean, on the team, did not want to make that game, did not want to even be associated with that game.
It was called Bling Bling at the time. That was the name of the concept, and it was, back when the term was, I don't know, I can't say cool, but like new.
It was really more of a gang simulator. It was a more serious game, but to me the sort of wacky humor aspects of Saints Row, for me, I hope for a lot of people, take away a lot of the, oh my God, you're a gangbanger doing these terrible things. You give player tools like driving vehicles and explosives and so forth, and a somewhat real city to do it in, they're gonna do wacky stuff.
It was kind of crazy because it was a brand new structure, and the genre was completely new, and then we decided to go to the 360 rather than doing it on PS2.
The documentation was incomplete. We weren't sure how fast it would be. We weren't sure how much memory it would be. We didn't know what the throughput was going to be from the DVD, which in a streaming open world game is really important.
That was definitely the hardest project I've been on. Technically, it was just extremely difficult, and we had to do streaming worlds for the first time, and I mean that alone is just enough to make some companies just shut down.
I think THQ really believed in the game, believed it was going to be successful. I think a lot of people here thought this is taking too long. There's too much stuff getting cut, thrown out. I'm working really hard here, and this game's not going to turn out well. And I think there was a fair amount of negativity on the team. It was like Red Faction.
We were dealing with a level of complexity that we had never, we'd never tackled before.
Our largest ever budget of $8 or $9 million, I think, and we blew through that by a lot. THQ doesn't like talking about budgets, but.
We'd never been above, I think, about 30, 40 people in a team, and all of a sudden we had 100 plus people on Saints Row.
Really, once we crossed 100, I realized I can't keep up anymore. A name pops in, a name pops out. Someone had a beard, he shaves his beard, I think he's a new employee, I embarrass myself.
Every year, Mike would, at the company meeting, would show a chart of like, how many heads we'd hired or whatever, and it was pretty much going up every year.
Being part of THQ, I don't really think changed the company very much. Team size growing is what changed the company a lot.
What the fuck you think you're doing? Just being civic-minded is all.
People didn't know how the game was going to be received. There was a lot of negativity in the postmortems. Everybody is asked to write a postmortem as soon as possible after the game is done. So it's what you're thinking then, not when you look back and say, well, the game was really successful, it wasn't that bad. So there was a lot of negativity in there. There was a lot of criticism of management.
And then it came out and it did very well, and all of a sudden that changed. So it was very interesting to watch that, the metamorphosis of the people who didn't support the game to all of a sudden, yeah, let's do another one and let's make it better. Saints Row 2 and the fact that it really came out and kind of put the mark that we wanted to put out there and say this is about making fun, and it's about creating, you know, that over-the-top feel, and doing it so that it's more about the player. You know, spending time not trying to make what a designer wants to make, but what the player wants to enjoy.
I think it's awesome that it's sort of identified itself as it's got this unique identity that it didn't have necessarily with the first title. You know, it was always like GTA, you know, comparisons and whatever, and that's, you know, completely fair, but it was cool to see, especially, you know, Saints Row 2 and 3 is just taking it even further, just being able to find its own identity, and it's this certain brand of humor and action and just craziness, you know, it's just, really? You guys did that? You know, I still hear stuff that just cracks me up.
I think these people are much happier and because they understand what they're making.
Everything for Saints Row the Third really started spinning up in late 2008 and early 2009 when Dan Sutton announced the game was officially in development. In a GameSpot article, Sutton teased, "We started work on Saints Row 3 and we have a new direction we want to go with in that, which we of course can't talk about." When pressed on how different it would be, his answer was just one word: very. What's interesting about that article is the way it was framed. The subtitle read, "Volition producer Dan Sutton says work has already begun on the next installment of its GTA-esque action series, which will take a new direction." Notice that phrasing. Even after Saints Row 2, widely seen as the magnum opus of the series, people still saw Saints Row as living in GTA's shadow. There was a whole demographic that didn't view it as its own identity yet. So, behind the scenes, Volition had one goal in mind for the third game: make it a reboot in spirit. They wanted to push Saints Row into a new lane, louder, wilder, and unapologetically over the top. In a sit down with VG247, series producer Greg Donovan confirmed this vision. With Saints Row the Third, we're doing a complete reboot of the franchise with new technology and everything else. Everything's going to be over the top this time around. It works for us. It differentiates us from other open world games. We do it well and players love it. At first, Saints Row the Third was going to be a very different game. For the first 6 months of development, the story centered around an undercover agent. You, the player, infiltrating the Saints. The design leaned heavily on morality choices. Find a bottle of cocaine and you decide whether to turn it into the FBI or give it to the Saints. On paper, it sounded intriguing, and the team liked the concept, but as time went on, doubts crept in. As one developer put it, it wasn't Saints Row. The team was confused, lacking confidence in the direction, and they knew they needed a solution fast. That's when Scott Phillips, the game's director, stepped in with a new vision. He pushed to abandon the undercover cop angle and instead lean fully into the identity Volition had been circling around since the first 2 games: over the top, chaotic, and unapologetically fun. Just like Saints Row 1 used F the Police to set its tone, the third needed its own inspiration. Volition cut together what they called a tone video, a mashup of over-the-top action films like Bad Boys 2, Shoot 'Em Up, and Hot Fuzz, layered with the song Kickstart My Heart in the background. That one reel would define everything about the game's direction. Phillips later said, "It helped greatly. I still get psyched watching that video, and it's what we wanted the game to feel like." And that's exactly what Saints Row the Third became. A game that feels like playing through an action movie set to pure adrenaline. At least by this point, the team had found the game's tone, and with it came sort of the most outrageous ideas in the series. Case in point, the creation of the infamous penetrator bat. For Scott Phillips, it was the moment he knew they had found the secret sauce for Saints Row the Third.
I'm Scott Phillips. I'm the lead designer on Saints Row the Third.
Craig Donovan, producer of Saints Row the Third.
Hey guys, you can call up the helicopter. Found the way to open the vault. Don't touch it!
We definitely wanted to start with a peak. We didn't want to start, very slow. I personally dislike it when I, have to start a game and I go through a bunch of menus and then I go through a bunch of slow tutorials and then I'm finally I finally get to the actual fun of the game. And so I definitely wanted to start us off strong. I think the level of intensity goes up and down, but I think our sort of insanity kind of has a straight peak up from the beginning. So no, I wasn't worried about starting off with that big bang.
I think with Saints Row the Third, certainly people really understand that open world is a genre, and games like GTA are very different from games like, you know, Saints Row. And they recognize that that's good. It's better alternatives and choices for players, and it's good for the industry as a whole. As far as telling them, I think we've been preaching that message for a long time, and I think our mechanics and assets we've released really emphasize that. I wish they were here today so they could see it firsthand as well, but they'll be able to come November 18th for sure.
We have huge lists of things that were cut. We always look back at them, like we will look back at stuff that was cut on Saints Row 2 to figure out things for Saints Row 3. My personal kind of most disappointing cut, which Greg will find funny, is dogs. You know, when you're surrounded by 30 enemies, which, you know, we have some combat situations with tons and tons of guys, so you want to be able to very quickly, at a glance, tell who you're facing. And so height and that sort of thing played into it a lot, and so that's why we have the brutes that are the 8-foot-tall guys. On the other end, I wanted to have dogs, because I think that they're small, they're quick, they have a different, you know, obviously they're not going to fire guns at you, though, I mean, actually, not thinking about that, that could be pretty neat. But anyway, they would run up on you, they would jump on you. I've actually got a video of it on my kit at home, because we had prototyped it. But rightfully, they were cut because we just didn't have the time to do them, which I totally understand. But, you know, in my heart, that was the one I really wanted to keep because I think it would have had a big impact in the gameplay. Well, I'd say the dildo weapon kind of shocked me. I remember us writing that down in one of our mission specs that, you know, oh, there'll be a dildo weapon and all of these other weapons in this one mission. And then when I finally saw it in game, like, you know, I expected something relatively simple. And he came back with this 6-foot-long floppy dildo with balls on it, and it was veiny. He had spent a lot of time on the texture and modeling it, and I was kind of like, wow, that was a little bit more than I was expecting, but that's pretty amazing. It took us a long time to kind of break through reviewers and the press and the consumers, players, kind of to see, oh, okay, there can be something that, you know, maybe it looks similar to GTA on the surface, but it's not. And I think with this game, I think it clearly shows we're not trying to be them. We don't want to be GTA. We are our own game. I look forward to seeing what they have, but I'm almost positive that what we have is completely different than what they have. And I think that's fine. You know, variety is the spice of life. People want different games, which is great.
Meanwhile, THQ was lining up the game for release. On February 3rd, 2010, Brian Farrell announced that the next Saints Row will be dropping sometime between April 2011 and March 2012. And within a year, fans knew exactly when to expect it. Fall 2011. Farrell doubled down, calling the game a significant growth driver in fiscal 2012. The official reveal came on March 2nd, 2011 with a striking image, boss in front and center with the title Saints Row the Third stamped beneath. But despite the hype, the game skipped that year's E3. Volition wanted to focus on refining the technology instead of rushing out a demo. Still, the VP of THQ promised the wait would be worth it, calling the game both gorgeous and insane. And the real deep dive finally came a month later, when Game Informer dedicated its April 2011 cover story to Saints Row the Third. That feature was a true kickoff of the marketing push, and from that moment on, the hype train for holiday 2011 was in full swing. Game Informer's feature titled Embracing the Crazy set the tone for everything to follow. The article stressed how Volition wanted to separate Saints Row the Third from the rest of the open world pack, particularly from Grand Theft Auto, where Rockstar had turned towards realism with GTA 4, Volition leaned to the opposite direction, fully embracing chaos, silliness, and over-the-top action. As the piece put it, Saints Row had a gleefully sophomoric, almost anarchic sense of humor and disregard for decency. Built on influences like Bad Boys 2, Shoot 'em Up, and Hot Fuzz, trucks filled with tigers, skydiving shootouts, and dildo bats weren't just gags, they were the blueprint for the game's identity. The feature had laid out the premise. The Saints had gone from a street gang to full-blown celebrities, plastered on billboards, selling merch, and starring in commercials. That fame drew the attention of the Syndicate, a global criminal organization led by Felipe Lauren and his lieutenants Kilbane, the DeWinter sisters, Matt Miller, and others. The Saints quickly found themselves stripped of their resources, relocated to Steelport, and forced to claw their way back to power against three rival factions: the Morningstar, the Luchadors, and the Deckers. Steelport itself was pitched as the new playground, a city in turmoil, decayed by corruption, poverty, and unchecked vice. The article emphasized how Volition wanted Steelport to stand alongside fictional settings like Gotham City and Metropolis, with gangs, stag military forces, and syndicate operations shaping the world dynamically. On the gameplay side, the cover story highlighted the revamped respect system, the expanded customization, and the insane new weapons and activities. Game Informer described everything from Horde mode to Professor Ginky's violent game show, from taunts and wrestling moves to buying out properties across the city. The underlying philosophy was clear: fun and excess first, realism dead last. Ultimately, the April 2011 article framed Saints Row III as Volition's boldest move yet, no longer a GTA-esque imitator, but a franchise rebooting itself around absurdity, spectacle, and unapologetic fun.
I'm Jim Giorgendi with GamingBolt.com, and I'm here with the technical designer, Rusty, for Saints Row the Third, which I got the demo, and it was pretty damn awesome. Can't wait for it. Just got a couple of questions for you. How does the third game fit into the timeline of the other games?
So Saints Row the Third is picking up pretty much right after Saints Row 2. The Saints, kind of fought to power in SR2 and taking over the Altor Corporation. And so in Saints Row the Third, you're starting out on top, and there's some time that's passed, but we're not really focusing on the amount of time. It's more just where the Saints are kind of coming into this game as top of their game, so to speak. The Saints name has become like a branded franchise. There's bobbleheads and all of this stuff. And so we're kind of picking it up from there, where they try to knock off a bank and find out that it's syndicate owned, which is a national multi-gang organization. And so that's kind of where the story picks up.
Okay, all right, cool. How will the third game differentiate itself from the competing franchise in the genre?
Well, the Saints Row franchise has just a lot of recognition from its player base for being, kind of crazy, over the top. A lot of things that you just won't see in other games. And we have the co-op experience, which creates even more kind of, hilarious and humorous elements to the gameplay when people are just goofing off and having fun in the city. So with Saints Row the Third, what we're trying to do is just really take that and turn it up to 11. We want to do as much over-the-top stuff as we can. And that goes all the way from the open world kind of city gameplay, messing with the peds, driving vehicles. We have overhauled the physics on the vehicles to make them faster and easier to handle. We have new vehicles such as the vertical takeoff and landing, the VTOL, which is just a ridiculous over-the-top thing to have in a city to fly around in. And then we also carry that straight into the missions. As you saw in some of our missions, we have these just really big custom moments where you're just doing something that you just wouldn't expect to be doing, especially in an open world game. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do, is give the players the type of experience where they're just repeatedly kind of saying to themselves or out loud, I can't believe this is happening in this game.
Yeah, I noticed some pretty unique weapons and stuff like that. Hey, got any comments on anything?
Yeah, we got a lot of great weapons. We're really happy about it. We have everything from the dildo bat, which is hilarious just to mess with peds and use on people, and then we have other things such as the Apocalypse, which is a really powerful melee weapon, obviously, and that kind of fits into the story a little bit. And we have some other just big powerful weapons such as the airstrike. You probably saw that. That's just a massive weapon to have, and that's kind of all part of the experience that we wanted people to have in Saints Row, is that they're on top. They have this stuff from the start of the game. You don't have to, work your way or play a long time to get that stuff. We want them to have these powerful things right away and be able to just jump in and have fun with that kind of stuff. And then we'll have some other stuff, to kind of hold back and give some people something to look forward to as they play through the missions.
Oh, okay, cool. How do you think the linear choices will affect the player's immersion?
The choices during the missions. Yeah, I mean, we have definitely have an element of player choice in multiple ways. We have our character customization, which is more of a visual element. People can dress a character any way they want, from running around streaking to wearing a spacesuit or a furry suit or just any mix and match of things. And that suit or that character customization is going to be present in all the cutscenes and in the missions. So you really are taking your character any way you want it to look into the game. And then there's also going to be some critical choices during the missions where the players will be able to make some pretty big decisions that will affect the city long term.
Cool. Are there any RPG elements being introduced aside from leveling?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big fan requested elements from Saints Row 2 that we are now bringing with Saints Row the Third is weapon upgrades. So you're not only going to be able to do the character customization, but you're also going to be able to take the weapons that you like, and we'll have some different upgrades for them, which will just make them anything from more powerful to more over the top elements.
Excellent. Has the third game taken influence from any other contemporary titles?
We take inspiration from a lot of things, no doubt. There's the predominant focus, Joe, is just on that, kind of like I said earlier, just turning it up to 11 and doing over the top. So it could be anything from movies, other stories, other games. What we're looking for is just delivering a fun, the fun gameplay experience and lots of those wow moments. So I couldn't necessarily cite anything particularly, but yeah, I mean, without a doubt, we're going to pull inspiration from different things.
Definitely an over the top game. Didn't expect that when I was demoed it. And is there going to be a split screen co-op?
Yeah, we'll have online co-op and console co-op. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much, Rusty. I appreciate it.
Everything will come together as on November 15th, 2011, Saints Row III will finally be released to the world.
Drew Holmes. I'm one of the writers working on Saints Row III. We're showing off a couple of things. We're showing off our open world gameplay. We kind of like to call it, it's not a sandbox, it's a toy box. Lots of cool weapons, lots of things for you to do, mess around with the people of Steelport, cause lots of mayhem, vehicles, VTOLs, fly around the city and cause lots of destruction. And then we're showing two of our what we call custom missions. Those are our story-based missions. Lots of crazy, wacky things are going to happen in them. The first mission of the game we've been showing off, you're robbing a bank, lifting the giant bank vault out of the crumbling building. And then we transition to our second mission of the game where we introduce our main bad guys, the Syndicate. And that mission culminates in a free-fall skydive into the new city of Steelport as bad guys are trying to attack you. So it's pretty insane. It's all about crazy, over-the-top ridiculousness. We want to throw realism out the window. We're going to get players this really fun, ridiculous, over-the-top experience that they're really not going to find in any other game. I mean, we're picking up a few years after the end of Saints Row 2. The Saints are now on top of the world, and they've sold out. They've become global celebrities. They've got their own line of bobbleheads. They've got Saints energy drinks. There's a movie in the works about them, and they really have kind of embraced this cult of celebrity. Being still being the bad guys. Robbing banks, attacking people in the streets. But there's this rogues gallery of Saints Row guys that have returned. And essentially, what happens is because they think they're on top of the world, they can do anything. They go to rob a bank, which turns out is owned by the Syndicate, this multinational conglomerate of gangs that we introduce. The Syndicate doesn't take too kindly to that and tries to take the Saints over, which in turn leads to this giant war between the Saints and the Syndicate and in the new city of Steelport. And so then it's the Saints trying to get revenge on the Syndicate and take over Steelport for their own. The Syndicate is actually made up of three different gangs. We've got the Luchadors, which are masked Mexican wrestlers. We've got the Morning Star, which are kind of this Eastern European weapons smugglers, and the Deckers, which are kind of more the high-tech angle of the Syndicate. But those guys, they're all working together to try and defeat the Saints. Yep, this new city is called Steelport. Like I said earlier, we introduced it by a skydiving shootout. And it's really this giant city of sin. We built it from the ground up with our new tech that we've introduced to Saints Row the Third. It's been built solely for the purpose of giving players this crazy, ridiculous, fun experience. There's going to be something to do on every corner of the street. It's this giant mecca of sin that we've created solely for the purpose of Saints Row the Third. We wanted to give players a new experience, something new to explore. The first mission of the game does still take place in Stillwater, so you'll see some of the cool little Saints branding that's in that city. But we really wanted to push it forward, kind of give the Saints a new fresh start and give players this ridiculous over-the-top experience. So you're not going to have to be grinding from the bottom. You start out on the top, and you get to bring the full force of the Saints arsenal to the Syndicate. Absolutely, 2-player drop-in, drop-out co-op online. You're going to play through the entire campaign with a friend. We're throwing lots of cool new tools that we'll be unveiling in the future for people to really have lots of fun with their online buddy. You can create your own character. Customization is returning for Saints Row the Third. Each person will be able to create their own fully customizable character. And then in our cinematics, it will show, if you're playing at home, it'll show your character in the cinematic, and your co-op buddy at home at his house will have his customized character show up in those cinematics. But then you'll be able to play through the missions all together. Just like Saints Row 2, he's going to talk a lot. We're going to have many more voice options as opposed to Saints Row 2. We're really giving, there's some old ones and some new ones that they're going to be returning in terms of voice customization. I think people are really going to be surprised. We've got lots of cool new weapons that we're even showing off. Giant dildo bats you can hit people with, the Apaka fists, giant plastic fists. You punch them and they explode in a purple or red gooey mist. We've got airstrikes you can call down at any time to attack gang members. We've also revamped the melee animation system, so as you're running down the street, be able to jump on someone's back and use them as a skateboard for a little bit, throw suplexes on people and pose for the camera. It's all about giving players lots of different crazy tools to really just have as much fun as they want. Our fans have really sort of embraced the sort of wacky comical angle. It was something that we really wanted to do at Volition, and so everything just kind of happened at the right time. We really wanted to push in the wacky comical angle, and I think it really helps us differentiate ourselves on the market. We really want to have that wacky gameplay, and I think players have been really clamoring for it. We want something ridiculous and fun. We don't necessarily always want to play a serious game. Those have their own. They're good. They're absolutely fantastic. But we wanted to create a different experience for people that they really weren't getting on any other game. With our missions, we really wanted to create custom missions. Moments that you're not going to experience just roaming around the streets of Steelport. We wanted to create special, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this moments. Like I said, like the first mission of the game, robbing a bank, pulling this giant bank vault out of the city. Unless you actually seen it in action, it's really hard to comprehend how ridiculous it becomes. Same thing with the skydiving. And then as the story progresses and the story gets amped up more and more, and the ridiculousness keeps going one and one over the top, the missions are going to rise to meet that. So that by the end, you're going to be absolutely blown away with where we've taken everything. The Saints Row Initiation Station, we're going to give people an early access to the character customization. You'll be able to play around with some of the tools we're giving you. We've revamped the character customization, streamlined it a little bit, make it much easier for people to create the freaks that they want. Now we don't even just have normal tone skin. You want to play as a green skin character, a blue skin character, a chrome skin character. We're going to give you those tools because that's what people really want, is to be able to make whatever they want. And so we're absolutely going to be giving those tools, and we'll be unveiling new Initiation Station features in the future. Coming out November 15th on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360.
Here is a quick spoiler alert, as I'm about to tell the story behind Saints Row the Third. There will also be light spoilers for Saints Row as well as Saints Row 2. Now, if you're not a fan of spoilers, please advance this video to the gameplay overview section as seen on the timeline below. Let's dive into this. The story kicks off in true over-the-top fashion, opening with a Star Wars style crawl with also Sprax Zarathustra from 2001's A Space Odyssey playing in the background. The text reflects on how the Saints have evolved since conquering Stilwater, transforming from a street gang into a full-blown media empire. We even learn that the Saints movie is in the works, with Johnny Gat and Shawnee becoming household names. But the crawl ends on a darker note, warning us that it's only a matter of time before someone dares to challenge the Saints' empire. From there, we cut to a commercial for Pierce's new energy drink, Saints Flow, being watched by Josh Burke, a young actor cast to play the Saints in an upcoming film. To prepare for the role, Burke decides to method act by joining the crew for a ride-along bank heist. That's where the game truly begins. Stillwater's First National Bank. Shaundi and Johnny Gat are already on site, but the boss enters in disguise, dressed like Johnny Gat himself. And immediately, boss warns Burke not to overdo it. The heist starts off smooth, even comically watered down, with hostages more interested in taking selfies with the Saints than running in fear. But Burke can't help himself. He keeps trying to go in guns blazing. When he confronts the bank clerk, he's shocked to find out she's armed. In fact, the entire bank is packing heat, and the chaos erupts into an all-out shootout. The Saints fight their way through waves of guards, eventually making it to the vault, but Burke cracks under pressure and starts hyperventilating. Boss rallies him and reveals their plan: blow the vault sky high with explosives. The Saints head upstairs to set the charges, with the plan to extract the vault using a helicopter. But Burke panics again. He presses a random button and makes the situation worse. Shaundi chews him out in classic Saints Row fashion. He breaks down crying before running away. His blunder alerts SWAT, forcing the Saints into another heavy firefight. As the helicopter arrives, Boss decides to ride with the vault itself while Gat and Shaundi take another route. Boss holds off waves of SWAT as the chopper struggles to gain control. Just when it looks like the escape is going smoothly, a rival helicopter crashes into theirs, sending Boss hurling into another building, surrounded by enemies. Eventually, he's reunited with Gat and Shaundi, but this time in handcuffs. The Saints reflect on their capture, unaware that they're about to meet the man truly responsible.
What happened?
We got arrested.
No, to us. Burke's right. We traded our dicks in for pussies. Seriously. Movie deals, commercials. Saint's name used to mean something more than body spray and some ass-tasting energy drink.
Our brand's worth a shitload of money.
Is that what it's all about?
It's always about the money, Mr. Gat. Which is precisely why our employer wishes to speak with you.
If you'll indulge us.
You have any idea who you fucking with here?
Of course. A remarkable likeness. These visions are Viola and Kiki, and I am Philippe Laurent, chairman of a multinational organization called the Syndicate.
Never heard of it.
Evidently not, or you would not have robbed our bank. Perhaps you wonder why you are still breathing at this point.
Actually, I wonder why my foot's not up your ass at this point.
Like it or not, Mr. Gat, our organization is expanding into Stillwater. I am offering you the chance to leverage your assets against your lives. Ladies?
You may continue to operate the Saints Ultor Media Group as you see fit, in exchange for 66% of your monthly gross revenue.
That is before taxes, of course.
Listen, you French fuck.
Please. I am Belgian.
So make yourself a fucking waffle. We done here.
And I had so hoped to come to a rational business arrangement.
What the hell's going on? Boss, you gotta bail. No, not without you.
What, there's like half a dozen guys? I can take them.
What about the plane?
I'll fly it back to Stillwater.
Johnny, you can't even drive stick. How you gonna fly a plane?
Details, details. Just cover the boss. Go, I got this.
After the Saints learn about the Syndicate, Gat tries to stay behind, buying time while Boss and Shaundi make a break for it. Shaundi's clearly worried, but Boss reassures her. Over the intercom, Gat cracks a few of his trademark jokes, then orders them to parachute out of the back of the plane. Fighting through waves of guards, Boss and Shaundi make their way to the rear hatch. Shaundi radios Gat to say they're about to jump, but before Gat can finish his response, the line goes dead. Boss and Shaundi leap from the plane, but only Boss has a parachute, leaving Shaundi in a free fall. What follows is pure Saints Row spectacle. Boss blasting away at a few gunmen as they plummet through the sky, even taking out another plane mid-air. Eventually, Boss catches up with Shaundi, and together they land safely, not in Stillwater, but in Steelport. As the dust settles, we shift to the perspective of Philippe Lauren, the leader of the syndicate. In a meeting with his cabinet, he begins to lay out his plans for the Saints now that they have stumbled into his city.
Gentlemen, negotiations were less than successful. Viola and Kiki will spread the word. Steelport belongs to the Syndicate, and the Saints are not welcome. Mr. Kilbane, gather your luchadores and bring me their leader's head. Mr. Miller, hack into the Saints' accounts and leave them nothing.
After punching the ATM, Boss and Shaundi receive a phone call from Loren. On the other end, he delivers a grim truth. Johnny Gat is gone, and he warns that the Saints will soon be joining him. Shaundi, devastated but burning with anger, vows to avenge Gat. The two then set out to gather weapons for the fight ahead. On the way, Shaundi lets Boss know she's already texted Pierce about what happened, and he's on his way with the rest of the crew. Their first stop is friendly fire, but Shaundi and Boss start going back and forth. If they're gonna go to war, they'll need more pistols and shotguns. She proposes picking a fight with the military to get their hands on heavy weaponry. The Saints hit the military armory hard, stealing weapons and even securing a bomb. Using drones, they blast through tanks before escaping in a helicopter, tasked with protecting the bomb as it's transported through the streets. After a chaotic showdown, they finally make it to Shaundi's ex's apartment, where they regroup and begin planning their next move.
So what's next?
What's next is you go back to Stillwater.
What? No, this is my fight too.
Girl, you don't get messy. Let us take care of business.
Fuck you. I'm doing this for Johnny.
All right, if we're gonna bring in the boys, we're gonna need a new place.
You're worried about real estate? We have guns. Let's use them.
Relax, Shaundi. We got it all covered.
Before declaring all-out war on the Syndicate, Boss and Pierce decide to get a feel for Steelport. The two head over to Rim Jobs to tune up their car, then stop by Planet Saints to tune up their look. But just as they finish shopping, a massive brute storms into the store, forcing the Saints into a fight. After unloading clip after clip, Boss finally puts the brute down, and he and Pierce retreat back to Shaundi's ex's apartment. Not long after, Boss gives Pierce a call with something bigger in mind. Pierce, tired of hiding out at the apartment, reveals he's been scoping out a Morningstar penthouse downtown. His proposal? Crash the party, wipe out the Morningstar, and claim the place as their new headquarters. Boss agrees, and what follows is easily one of the most iconic moments in the story. From a helicopter high above the city, Boss parachutes straight into the penthouse, guns blazing as the Saints wage war on the Morningstar. After grabbing one of their lieutenants, Boss forces him to give up the security code and unlocks the storage room to let the rest of the Saints in. With the penthouse swarming in chaos, Boss tracks down another lieutenant to find out which wire to cut, ultimately securing the building for themselves. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, Loren is informed that the Saints have just crashed his party.
The Saints aren't going to back down.
Maddie, there's nothing to worry about. My thoughts exactly, Mr. Kilbane. The Saints are no more than a white noise of empty threats.
With respect, sir. I'd say empty is no longer applicable.
With the penthouse secured, Pierce reveals he scouted out the area and managed to find safety deposit keys. He insists on cleaning out the boxes while Boss runs protection. Once this job is done, Boss calls Pierce, who shares some unexpected news. Altor has sent a shipment of Saints merch. Pierce suggests they ride around town trafficking it, making sure everyone in Steelport knows the Saints have officially arrived. After spreading their brand, Boss checks back in with Pierce, who proposes the next step, taking over the city through money laundering. To pull this off, the Saints start buying up stores and estates, funneling cash while systematically shutting down Morningstar operations across Steelport. Their growing presence doesn't go unnoticed, but Boss keeps pressing the advantage. From there, Pierce lines up more jobs. Using intel from the deposit boxes, he identifies Morningstar's supply routes, and Boss tears them apart with a tank, creating mayhem all over the place. The last task Pierce sets up is even stranger. Boss has been selected to compete in Professor Genki's twisted game. Against all odds, Boss comes out on top, collecting the prize money and further cementing the Saints' reputation in Steelport. With momentum on their side, Boss and Pierce regroup at the broken shillelagh, ready to plan their attack on Loren himself.
Doesn't seem like your kind of place, Pierce.
What's the hate? Beer's cheap, and I'm the best looking motherfucker in here.
Look, you may think it's time to kick back, but I'm done toying with these bastards. I want Loren and I want him now. So where is he?
No idea. But 10K says he's hiding out in that big ass skyscraper.
Nah, Loren's a tactician. He's not gonna hole up in a building that screams, I'm a criminal mastermind. I need something concrete.
To hit up Powder.
Nah, I don't have time for a stripper.
No, Powder's a designer gun store downtown. I saw some of Loren's thugs talking to the owner. There's gotta be something there.
All right, let's go shopping.
Boss gives Shandi a call and lets her know the powder store is just a front for the Morningstar, hoping it will lead them to intel on Loren. Shandi doesn't hesitate. She's all in. The Saints on the back of the powder store, and Shandi wastes no time. She guns down 2 Morningstar members as they push deeper into the warehouse. After mowing through Morningstar operatives and even taking down a brute, the crew finally reaches the manager's office. Shandi hacks the computer system and pulls the information they need. With the intel secured, Boss calls Pierce. It's time to deal with the Belgium problem. Shandi, still on 10, ready for war and swearing that Loren won't get away this time. The crew rallies at Saints HQ, arms up, and rolls out to hit the Syndicate Tower. First, they clean out the docks, then Boss plants a bomb with a 15-minute timer. From there, they ride the elevators up to confront Loren. On the way, they encounter something unexpected, a massive nude brute named Oleg. But unlike the others, this one isn't mindless. He reveals that he's the original template, the master brute from which the copies are made, and offers to help take Loren down. Following his lead, the Saints head toward Loren's office, but just before they can reach him, Loren escapes down the express elevator to the basement. The boss doesn't hesitate. He takes his own express elevator. He leaps onto a chandelier, riding it down in a free fall until it smashes through the floor and crushes Loren, ending his reign over the Syndicate. With Loren dead, the Saints feel accomplished and decide it's finally time to return to Stillwater, ready to say their last goodbyes to Gat. But as always, things don't go according to plan.
When I left Stilwater for the Senate, I vowed never to forget my hometown roots. My husband gave his life defending Stilwater from gang violence. It is my greatest privilege to honor him with this bridge.
What the?
Time for the high spot, boys.
Whoever this crew is, they flow pretty damn good.
They're Killbane's thugs.
Kill who?
He's the Syndicate's attack dog.
What he did to Johnny's funeral. That's over the fucking limit.
He doesn't care about rules of engagement.
No rules? I could work with that.
You're not ready to fight the Syndicate.
Watch us.
Just relax, Shondi. All right, big man, what do you got?
There are others who hate the Syndicate as much as you do. I will take you to them.
Can you believe it? On my husband's bridge! No, I will not come down. I am heading back to the hill. Book an emergency session. God damn it, this is war.
Back in Steelport, the Saints begin recruiting new lieutenants to strengthen their ranks. The first is Kinsey, a young woman recently discharged from the FBI. She's currently being held hostage by the Deckers after getting too close to exposing the Syndicate. The crew launches a rescue mission, storming the boat where Kinsey is being kept in cuffs. After freeing her, she gratefully agrees to help, provides intel on another potential ally, a man named Zemos. According to Kinsey, Zemos was the DeWinter sisters' biggest competition in the escort business, so they had him locked up in their brothel. Pierce and Boss ride out to the location while Kinsey continues digging into other leads. In the basement, they find Zemo strapped into a bizarre carriage contraption. After fighting through waves of Morningstar, they clear the area and free him. Zemos, speaking through his iconic auto-tune voice, thanks the Saints for the rescue. Not long after, Kinsey calls again with information on her final recruit, Angel de la Muerte, once the tag team partner of Killbane, who was the leader of the Luchadors. Their partnership ended violently when Killbane betrayed him, leaving Angel with a burning hatred that rivals the boss's own vendetta. Kinsey points out that Angel is under siege at a local gym, pinned down by Luchadors. Zemos and Boss head out and link up with Oleg, who's already clearing the outside. Inside, they find Angel holding his own before the gym is ambushed again. Together, the Saints fight off the attackers, securing Angel's loyalty. With Kinsey, Zemos, Oleg, and Angel now in their corner, the Saints rise to new power. At the same time, the Syndicate holds a meeting of their own, and Killbane is officially cemented as their new leader.
Ladies and gentlemen, Philippe is dead, and we are at a crossroads. And the question is, who will lead the Syndicate to a new era?
Viola and Kiki were Mr. Loren's right hands.
I had someone else in mind.
Excuse me?
The Syndicate has to answer for what they did. And this time, we're taking a fight to them. Since we don't know Steelport, I brought in some people who do. This is Kinsey, Zemos, and Angel.
The barbarians are at the gate! We need a general, not an ambassador!
Calm down, Eddie.
What did you call me?
What would you like us to do, Killbane?
Something. Anything! Before I wonder why I keep you bookends around!
Talk to one of these guys, they'll have things for you to do. It's our time now. Let's get this shit started.
With the Saints fully assembled, Boss wastes no time in putting his new lieutenants to work. Starting with Zemos. At his crib, Zemos is already celebrating his freedom, but Boss pushes him to focus on striking the Morningstar. Their first move is to snatch a group of women under Morningstar's control and deliver them back to Zemos. From there, Boss protects him while he promotes his business, and later escorts his girls around town, fending off nosy paparazzi. Once Zemos is reestablished, Boss wants to shift their attention back to the Morningstar, but Zemos insists on showing off his art collection instead, something that leaves Boss more annoyed than impressed.
That is one ugly fucking painting.
You fucking Philistine. What you know about art? That's a the Winter Sisters original. Bought that back in the day when me and the twins were all live and let live.
Well, seeing how we just let them know we taking over their business, I doubt that deal's gonna hold.
Shit. Remember the pony show? I've been off that Christmas list a long time. Anyway, I didn't call you over to talk about me. You killed Philippe Loren and showed the Morning Star that you are here to stay. Time to relax and cut loose, baby.
No, we'll party once the work's done. I'll call you when I make another move against the Morning Star.
Next, Boss links up with Angel at his gym. Angel's plan is simple: toughen up Boss for his battles ahead with the Luchadors. His first test is insurance fraud, throwing Boss into traffic to rack up damage payouts. Then he pushes the challenge further with trailblazing, sending Boss tearing through the streets on a flaming ATV. But Angel saves the most absurd task for last, sticking Boss in a car with the live tiger riding shotgun. Furious, Boss storms back into the gym ready to tear Angel apart, only for Angel to grin and tell him the training has worked. Boss, tougher than before, begrudgingly accepts it.
A fucking tiger?
If you're fighting the luchadors, you need to be ready for anything.
A fucking tiger?
Don't lose the message in the method. You mastered your fear.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
You're ready to face Killbane, but the luchadors must still be dealt with. You know where to find me if you need more training.
Finally, Boss checks in with Kinsey, who's moved on to one of the Morningstar's old hideouts and is already planning out ways to take down the Deckers. She's developed a program to track users' physical locations, but to get it working, Boss has to blast through the Deckers' virtual defenses with a cyberspace version of trailblazing. Once through, Kinsey sets her sights on one of their shell companies, sending Boss to cause mayhem in the streets. The retaliation is swift. The Deckers come after Kinsey directly, and Boss has to cover her from above as she evades their attack. Later, Kinsey calls him back for another aerial mission, this time protecting her as she hacks into the Deckers' network. With her systems now fully online and access secured, Kinsey meets Boss at Smiling Jack's. There, she explains they disrupted the Deckers enough to finally make a move on Matt Miller, but warns there's still plenty of work to be done.
You should be more careful. I saw you coming 2 blocks ago. Traffic cameras. They're everywhere in this town.
Good to know.
I'm serious. You should toss out your fancy overpriced phone. I can find you through that too.
Yeah, look, I feel kind of weird having a conversation like this.
Totally agree. We should be using like that Navajo code dialect.
Come on, fair. I took care of the Deckers.
Sure. Let down your guard and suddenly they make it look like you're selling secrets to Mossad and moonlighting as a dominatrix. We've created a big enough disruption for you to move on Matt Miller. But if you want the Deckers gone, like really gone, there's a lot of work to do.
All right. I'll hit you up if I need any more help.
Remember, throw out your phone.
Not long after, Boss gets a call from Shondi, and she's furious. She orders him to come by HQ immediately, furious that Pierce is apparently throwing a party while Johnny Gat is still gone. When Boss arrives, he finds Pierce and Zemos lounging around, scoping out women like nothing's wrong. Shondi storms in right behind him, laying into Pierce for partying when they should be mourning. Pierce and Zemos brush off her anger, arguing they can't grieve forever. Even Boss sides with them, which only pushes Shondi over the edge as she storms out in frustration. With the tensions gone, the party resumes. Drinks flow, music blares, and for a moment it looks like the Saints are cutting loose. But just as things heat up, one of the dancers climbs into Pierce's lap and suddenly pulls his gun. Before she can fire, Boss clocks her, and in an instant, every dancer in the room whips out a weapon. The party was a setup. The Syndicate had planned an assassination attempt, but the Saints fought back and managed to survive the ambush. The The failed hit only enrages the Syndicate, sparking the rift that will eventually tear them apart.
They came highly recommended.
Ladies, it was a pretty shit plan.
Tell me something, Matt. Did you have a plan? How about you, Eddie? There's a reason Philippe left the thinking to us. We're done here.
Killbane! Relax. You only need one of them. Viola, your sun is setting, but it's not too late. There's still time to grab Apollo's chariot and drive that fucker back across the sky. You feel me?
Yes, Killbane.
Apology accepted. Hey, I'll comp you a VIP faster murder brawl. That'll cheer you up.
After the party fiasco, Zemo knows he messed up, and Boss makes sure he doesn't forget it. Still, Zemos comes prepared with a plan to put pressure on the Morningstar. The two meet on a street corner where a crowd has gathered to watch Monica Hughes deliver an address on television. In the wake of the attack on Stillwater and the destruction of the Hughes Memorial Bridge, the Senate has officially launched the STAG initiative. Neither Boss nor Zemos know exactly what STAG is yet, but it doesn't sound good. Pushing that aside for a moment, Zemos pitches a plan, auctioning Boss off as a sex slave to infiltrate SafeWord, a Morningstar-owned BDSM club. It's insane, but it works. Boss stripped down and restrained, makes it inside, where he reconnects with Zemos. Together, they fight through Morningstar goons, free the captive women, and claim SafeWord as their own stronghold. Not long after, Boss gets a mysterious call from Viola de Winter, one of the Morningstar sisters. She tips them off to a ship carrying new girls into Steelport, replacements for the ones the Saints just freed. With Pierce and Zemos backing him, Boss raises the ship, fights through heavy resistance, and rescues every captive on board. Meanwhile, back with the Syndicate, Killbane hitches his own counter plan, ordering Matt Miller to rally the Deckers and hire a film crew to set up a live broadcast that will put the Saints on display. Behind them, Monica Hughes announces that STAG forces are officially being deployed in Steelport, escalating the conflict to an entirely new level. Shortly after, Viola de Winter reaches out again, asking to meet, but this time things won't go as smoothly. An uninvited guest is about to change the game.
I didn't realize you were a patron of the arts, Viola.
We never really had the chance to chat. What, with you being a science experiment?
I wouldn't piss off the big guy.
Look, I'm not here to fight. We need to work together.
Right. Johnny's dead because of you.
Johnny's dead because he thought he could do everything on his own.
So what's in it for you?
I get to watch Killbane suffer.
Can you play nice?
I am always gentleman.
What is that?
Nothing good. Let's go.
Ladies first.
Kia, status.
The Saints have taken cover with one of the De Winter sisters. We're about to move in.
Roger that. Contact me once you secure the area.
Yes, Commander.
The Saints fight their way through the ambush, eventually battling up to the strip club's rooftop where they clash with waves of STAG officers. After clearing the area, they push back towards Saints HQ, regrouping under fire. Meanwhile, a press conference is being held where Cyrus Temple, the leader of STAG, addresses the public. He declares there is now a war on urban terror, framing the Saints as domestic enemies. During his speech, he even references Jessica Parrish, Meryl's girlfriend from Saints Row 2. For those who remember, Jessica was the woman Boss tricked Meryl into unknowingly running over with his car. Cyrus reframes the incident as a kidnapping gone wrong, asking the press to imagine if Jessica had been their daughter. His rhetoric paints the Saints as monsters, and it helps fuel public support for Stagg's crackdown. Back at HQ, Pierce and Oleg are locked in an intense chess match when Boss interrupts with urgency. The Saints HQ is no longer safe. They need to clear out. Pierce handles loading up trucks while Oleg creates a distraction. Boss, meanwhile, infiltrates the Stag base, hijacks an aircraft, and wreaks havoc in the skies. The mayhem peaks when Boss destroys a massive Stag surveillance plane en route to Steelport, drawing even more attention to the Saints. We then cut to a propaganda commercial featuring Josh Burke, the actor from the bank heist at the start of the game, now proudly endorsing Stag and encouraging citizens to enlist in the fight against gangs. Inside Stag's HQ, Kia objects to using Nightblade as the face of their campaign, but Monica Hughes insists hearts and minds will win the war. Cyrus pushes for a military solution by authorizing the data list, but Monica shuts him down and orders him to focus on protecting Burt instead. From there, Boss, Pierce, and Viola meet up at a comic book store. Their new plan: kidnap Burke, the poster boy of Stag's campaign.
Oh look, Pierce can read.
Girl, I ain't gotta explain myself to you. Stag is using Nightblade as their mascot. We snatch the punk, then we draw out Stag. Set it up right, we get the drop on those motherfuckers.
Excuse me? Can you sign this?
The fuck is this? Dude, it's Johnny's comic. He sold his likeness to Ultor. They're making a movie out of this shit. Remind me to call Legal Lee about this.
Thank you.
Alright, so how do we find Burke? Chump could be anywhere. Look, we lay the right bait, he'll come to us. That's why I need you and the new girl.
My name's Viola.
Your name's the Bloody Canoness.
You can't be serious.
Works for me.
Boss and Viola go undercover as Nightblade characters to infiltrate the Stag PR center. Their disguise gets them close enough to find Burke, who's decked out in a Nightblade costume. Before he can even recognize Boss, he gets dropped with a single punch, knocked out cold. From there, the Saints haul him out of the building, Boss carrying Burke like a child as they make their escape. On the way back to HQ, Burke warns that Stag will come after his kidnappers with everything they've got. But when Boss casually mentions that Shaundi is waiting, Burke changes his tune immediately and agrees to play along. Meanwhile, Cyrus informs Monica Hughes that the Saints have Burke, but he assures her Stag will get him back. Back at HQ, Shaundi keeps Burke at gunpoint while Pierce and Oleg continue their ongoing chess rivalry. Burke tries to charm Shaundi in every way, only to get shot down verbally just as quick. Boston arrives, and Oleg hands them the supplies Pierce gathered. Their plan is simple: go stag hunting. Boss heads back to the PR center, tossing Molotovs to create chaos and bait Stag into a confrontation. The plan works. Soon after, Stag storms Saints HQ and a massive battle erupts. Oleg coordinates from the security room, while Viola gives boots on the ground support, directing the Saints as waves of Stag troopers pour in. After the fighting dies down, Boss returns to the penthouse where Shaundi is still keeping a close eye on Burke. That's when Cyrus himself lands on the heliport. Boss demands that Stag leave Steelport, but Cyrus offers him a deal. Hand over Burke and Stag will withdraw. Keep him and the war continues. No matter the choice though, one thing is made clear: Stag is always one step ahead.
Kia, do you read me?
I see congratulations are in order, Commander.
Not quite. The Saints are still at large. I'm sending some intel over. I need leverage on the Saints. Bring in the target for questioning.
They're going to run to ground. Digging them out won't be easy.
If it were easy, I wouldn't waste your time.
Understood, sir. I'll find her.
With Stag temporarily pushed back, Boss turns his attention to the Deckers, working closely with Kinsey to bring them down. At Smiling Jack's, Kinsey shows Boss and Shaundi a live news interview between Jane Valderrama and Kilbane. During the broadcast, Kilbane trashes the Saints and even frames them for the destruction of the Hughes Memorial Bridge, something he was responsible for during an ambush. He backs up the lie with the doctor footage showing Pierce, Shondi, and Boss dancing near the wreckage, even though a shadow gives away the fake backdrop. Outraged, Shondi and Boss decide Kilbane has to be stopped immediately. With Kinsey's help, they triangle the broadcast location to an abandoned office building, but when they arrive, they're too late. Kilbane has already fled. Boss and Shondi give chase in a helicopter, and Shondi lines up the kill shot. Just before she can pull the trigger, the chopper malfunctions and crashes into the street, letting Kilbane slip away. Furious, Shondi demands answers, but Boss is just as confused, until his phone buzzes with a smug text from Matt Miller, and the text reads, "Cheers." Realizing the Deckers are behind it, Boss and Pierce meet Kinsey at her warehouse. She explains that Miller hacked into their helicopter's flight system with an EMP. To fight back, she needs them to steal a powerful learning computer from Stag that would allow her to infiltrate the Deckers' mainframe. Miller, catching wind of her plan, sends his own crew to intercept it. Boss and Pierce head to the PR center and fight through an intense shootout, ultimately retrieving the computer and delivering it safely to Kinsey. Back at the warehouse, Kinsey lays out her next step, broadcasting Boss's subconscious directly into the Deckers network. To do that, she needs a Nemo chair, a device that lets a person into the virtual world. Oleg explains that the KGB once had them, but they were all destroyed. Kinsey quickly interjects, the Deckers still have one. Boss joins her at a nuclear power plant where they disassemble security routers and locate the chair. With both the supercomputer and the Nemo chair in hand, Kinsey is ready to plug Boss into cyberspace itself, bringing the fight directly to Matt Miller. With both the supercomputer and the Nemo chair in their possession, the Saints are finally ready to take down the Deckers for good. Kinsey has Boss jack into the Deckers' mainframe, sending his conscience straight into their virtual world to corrupt it from inside. The journey through cyberspace is bizarre as it is dangerous. Boss is first rendered as a toilet, then a blow-up doll, before finally stabilizing into a humanoid avatar. From there, he's dropped into an old-school DOS-style game, forced to answer a series of riddles and questions to progress deeper into the network. Each wrong answer could lock him out, but eventually Boss clears the hurdles and comes face to face with Matt Miller himself. What follows is a surreal digital showdown, Boss and Miller clashing through their avatars in a battle for control of the Usenet. In the end, Boss overpowers Miller and claims victory. Defeated and desperate, Miller begs for his life. Instead of killing him, Boss decides to let him walk away. Shaken, Miller immediately reports to Kilbane, revealing that he's planning to skip town and leave the Syndicate behind.
I really wish you'd reconsider, Matty. These hands of mine were meant to rend bone, not hunt and peck on a keyboard.
Well, if typing's the issue, I can recommend some good voice recognition software. I know the best...
Shh. You stuck with me when I rose from Philippe's ashes like a phoenix. You and me, we've bonded.
That's lovely, but I feel it's time for me to move on. To be honest, I'm a little scared of, well, dying.
I do run a demanding workplace. Matty, I appreciate how you shared your concerns. I mean, the way Viola and Kiki handled their departures made me just want to kill someone, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I've got a flight to catch, so...
Matty.
Oh, God.
Feel free to list me as a reference anytime.
With the Deckers out of the picture, Stag makes their next move. Shondi calls Boss, still bitter about Viola's role in Gat's death and questioning whether she could be trusted. Before Boss can even answer, the line goes silent. Shondi's been kidnapped mid-call. Boss immediately reaches out to Pierce, telling him to meet at Image as designed. There, Pierce and Viola are furious when they hear Boss's plan. He intends to walk into Stag's base by undergoing plastic surgery to look exactly like Cyber's temple. Pierce and Viola will pose as his prisoners. Against their better judgment, they go along with it. The plan works. At first, inside the Stag carrier, Kia and her soldiers salute Cyrus for capturing Pierce and Viola. The trio splits, with Pierce and Viola being sent to the brig, while Boss follows Kia, who proudly shows off Stag's new prototype vehicle. But the ruse doesn't last. Suddenly, the real Cyrus's voice blares over the intercom, blowing Boss's cover. Boss fights his way through the carrier, breaking out Shondi, Pierce, and Viola from their cells. Together, the Saints destroy the ship's reactor, triggering a catastrophic chain reaction that sinks the entire carrier into the ocean. They escape just in time, watching the wreckage burn and collapse into waves. The victory is short-lived though. Stag responds by declaring martial law, raising the stakes of the war to a whole new level.
This one's going in the book.
We might have overdone it.
Now we can focus on Killbane.
What about Stag?
We just blew up an aircraft carrier. What else could they throw at us?
You knew it would come to martial law, didn't you?
I knew the Saints. How did Mayor Reynolds react?
They'll fall in line. They all will.
Keep me updated, Commander.
Of course, ma'am.
Sir, the commandos are en route. We'll have the whole city locked down in 72 hours.
Outstanding. Thank you, Kia.
Permission to speak freely? It's about damn time we took off the kid gloves.
Two little words, Kia. Shock and awe.
Boss gets in touch with Kenzie, who tips him off about a major Stag shipment headed for Steelport. Later that night, Boss and Viola rendezvous on a plane, where Boss jumps out mid-air and lands directly onto the shipment aircraft. Fighting his way through, he blasts open the cockpit door with a sonic boom, but the process destroys the controls, sending the entire plane into a nosedive. Boss narrowly escapes, leaping out as the plane goes down. What follows is pure Saints Row chaos. Boss free falls through the sky while battling Stag soldiers inside a tank free falling. Eventually, he crash lands, crushing an unfortunate Saints protester on impact. Moments later, debris and bodies rain down across the city, along with a hazardous freight container. The wreckage ruptures storage units at the Alter Chemical Waste Disposal Plant, releasing a green smog into the streets. To make things worse, the dead begin to rise. Steelport is suddenly overrun by zombies. Boss barely manages to drive out of the chaos. Afterward, Viola briefs him on the next step, telling Boss she's arranged a meeting with the city's mayor. When Boss finally arrives, he's stunned to see it's none other than Avery Carrington. If you know, you know.
What are we waiting for?
We're not walking in there until you promise to play nice.
Are you serious?
Repeat after me. Don't fuck with the mayor.
Look, sweetie, I'll fuck with whoever I want to fuck with. I mean, who does this guy think he is?
Viola, is this the kid you were talking about?
Burt fucking Reynolds?
Who else could keep this town running? Besides, I love my constituents.
Sir, I'm a huge fan.
Excuse me, honey. Viola says the Saints are the new game in town. If that's the case, I want in.
Yeah, great. What do you need?
I got a zombie problem that I want.
Wait, a what problem?
Zombies.
You mean metaphorically, the celebrity-obsessed media drug masses, yes?
This ain't Los Angeles.
I'll tell you about it later.
You knew about this?
So what do you say, kid?
Undead cleanup ain't exactly in our wheelhouse, but we'll give it a whirl. Aren't you worried about pissing off Stag?
You're acting like I never had to outsmart a paramilitary organization before. Call me when it's done.
Oh my god, this guy's fucking awesome.
Stop being a fanboy.
After the zombie outbreak is contained, Stag moves in to clean up the mess. Monica Hughes calls in, furious over the chaos and demanding answers. When Cyrus blames complications, Senator Hughes snaps back, losing her patience. Once again, Cyrus pushes for authorization to unleash the Daedalus, insisting it could end things quickly. But Monica shuts him down, saying even if Congress supported it, Homeland Security would never approve. Instead, she decides to travel to Steelport personally, putting more pressure on Stagg as public opinion begins to turn against them. With Stagg's reputation faltering, the Saints finally shift their focus back to the Syndicate, specifically Killbane. At the Broken Shillelagh, Boss, Viola, Shondi, and Pierce gather to discuss strategy. Viola insists the best way to hurt Killbane is to destroy his reputation, and the key to that is his mask. She explains that Killbane would never willingly face Angel again, so the Saints decide to rig the odds in their favor. By eliminating competitors in the upcoming Murder Brawl event, they can force Killbane into the ring with Boss. Boss carries out the plan, taking out 4 wrestlers one by one. With no other challengers left, Killbane has no choice but to accept. Outside the 3-count casino, Boss publicly confronts him, issuing the challenge that the entire city will soon be watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Stillwater Butcher has graced us with their presence.
You want to fight the best? You fight me.
The best? The best is beating Sway the Spider God in a Tijuana scaffold match. The best is defending the world title 13 times in one night. The best is winning a last man standing match with 2 broken legs! Trust me, little Icarus. You're flying too close to the sun.
Oh my God. Quit being a bitch and put your mask up.
If you want to be broken by the walking apocalypse, I will gladly oblige you.
Not long after, Angel calls Boss, urging him not to fight Killbane. Boss refuses. There's no way he's letting Killbane walk after framing the Saints. Angel pushes back, saying it's his fight since he's a Saint now, but Boss won't budge. They meet at the 3-count casino where Angel opens up about his past. Losing his mask, he explains, was the greatest shame a luchador can feel, and now it's time to reclaim it. The two storm the casino, tearing through luchadors and interrogating the manager. They learn Killbane stashed Angel's mask in a vault behind the teller cages. Fighting their way inside, Angel reclaims it at last, restoring both his pride and his resolve. Together, he and Boss finish clearing the casino, claiming it for the Saints. With Angel's confidence restored, they march straight into the Murder Brawl. It's the biggest event in the city, and Killbane enters the arena full of confidence, basking in the crowd. Back in gorilla position, Boss promises to watch Angel's back, handling the luchadors while Angel handles Killbane. Boss enters to a chorus of boos, followed by Angel, who's determined to finally stand tall. The fight is brutal. Angel and Killbane clash in the center of the ring, while Boss fends off waves of luchadors on the outside. At one point, Angel goes high risk, leaping off the top rope, only to be thrown out of the ring and swarmed. Boss grabs a chainsaw, turning into a Texas Chainsaw Wrestler to protect him, but Angel's leg is badly damaged. Unable to continue, Angel steps aside as Boss enters the ring to finish the fight. After a grueling battle, Boss stands over Killbane, ready to make the call: unmask him and destroy his reputation, or let him live in disgrace. Either way, Killbane is defeated, and the humiliation drives him over the edge.
You gotta love it. Against all odds, the Saints are still standing.
What a night, Zach. What a night.
Killbane, it's just a match.
It's my fucking reputation! This is my city. I am its Caesar! And I get to fiddle while it burns.
We finally arrive at the climax. Boss meets up with Pierce and Oleg, who unsurprisingly are in the middle of another chess match. The casual game is cut short when an explosion rocks the city, followed by a plane crashing straight into the Saints' penthouse. The three spring into action, rushing into the streets of Steelport to put down battles breaking out across the city. After clearing 3 hotspots, Boss receives 2 urgent calls that will define the ending. First, Angel reports that Killbane is trying to flee Steelport and is headed for the airport. At the same time, Kia calls with a devastating ultimatum. She has Viola, Shondi, and Mayor Reynolds held hostage on the Magnarak Island, rigged to blow, and she plans to frame the Saints for their deaths. Boss is forced into a choice. So we're going to start with the non-canonical path, then we're going to jump into the canonical path. In the non-canonical path, Boss chooses to side with Angel and end Killbane once and for all, even if it means sacrificing his friends. Boss rides out to the airport, fighting the waves of Stag soldiers alongside Angel before chasing down Killbane's escape plane. After taking it down, Boss and Killbane share one last bitter exchange before setting things in a final brawl. Boss beats Killbane mercilessly, finally snapping his neck and ending his reign for good. But the victory is hollow. The cost weighs heavily as Boss takes in a call from Pierce, who demands to know what happened. With Shondi, Viola, and Reynolds gone, Boss is left to watch the consequences of his choice and what he's allowed to happen under his watch.
Son of a bitch?
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
You were right, Commander. Bring in the data list.
After that tragedy at the Magnamark Island, Boss heads to the Broken Shillelagh, where the Saints gather to mourn their losses. The mood is heavy. The crew is broken by grief. But the moment doesn't last. The data list is finally activated, unleashing chaos and destruction across Steelport. Boss refuses to let Stag finish what they started. He takes to the skies in a helicopter, heading straight for the colossal warship. Fighting his way across the data list, Boss plants explosives to cripple it from within. The mission builds to a final showdown with Cyrus himself. After a fierce battle, Boss guns down Cyrus's airplane, ending the fight once and for all. With the bombs primed, Boss barely escapes, flying off the data list as it erupts in flames above the city. In the aftermath, the Saint seize control of the narrative. Flying to the local news station, Boss delivers a message directly to Monica Hughes and the world. The Saints aren't just a gang anymore, they're in charge. The game closes on a grim but serious note, with Steelport effectively becoming a city-state under the Saints' rule, and Pierce stepping into the role of a mayor.
Kinsey, round up every saint we can find. We're going on a field trip.
Even in a place that is no stranger to violence, today's assault on the city stands as the blackest time in Steelport's sordid history. While the government has yet to comment on the attack, we have a report.
No one runs, no one gets shot, understand? Sorry. Kinsey, you in the booth?
All set.
I got a message from Monica Hughes and her stooges. Dear bitch, Steelport is under new management and we don't answer to you. This is foreign soil now. Come at my city again and you go home in a fucking box. Back to you.
Not bad. You could be a weatherman or some shit.
I may have laid it on a little thick.
You did just create a city-state.
Good point. And it reminds me, This place is gonna need a new mayor. How do you feel about public office?
Horrible idea. I'm in.
Then let's get to work.
Now we come to the canonical ending. Boss races to the docks to meet Kinsey, who reveals that Manor Rock Island is rigged with explosives. The monument has been packed with bombs, and Boss has only one way to deal with them: a sonic boom gun powerful enough to throw them into the water. Boss scales the monument, methodically blasting the bombs off the statue and preventing the island from going up in flames. At the top, he finally confronts Kia, who's holding Shandi and the others hostage. Kia mocks Boss, sneering that all he ever does is let his friends die. But this time, Boss proves her wrong. In a decisive fight, he takes Kia down once and for all, saving his crew and ending her reign. Unlike the darker path, this ending leaves the Saints in a position of glory. Monica Hughes, who once vilified them, is forced to publicly recognize the Saints as heroes. The city sees them not just as gangsters, but as saviors. And just when the dust begins to settle, the game throws one last unexpected twist. A surreal, out-of-this-world experience that leaves players stunned.
Let's go home.
Hold it right there.
Unless the next thing out of your hole is thank you, we got a serious fucking problem.
They have a point, Commander. Like it or not, the Saints are heroes.
Are you shitting me, lady?
You declared martial law and knocked down half the city. The Saints just saved a treasured monument. Who the fuck do you think the public will side with? Yes, I can answer any questions. Jimmy over there.
They can give you the key to the goddamn city, but as soon as you screw up, we'll be back. And next time, Stag is gonna put you down.
Oh, I love you too, Cyrus.
So what's the play, boss? We go back to banging in Stillwater?
Not yet.
Hi, people. When we started tracking down this son of a bitch, we said we'd follow him to the ends of the earth. And we did. Killbane is readying his army for an all-out attack. We will stop him here. Our planet needs us. Let's not let her down. Hoorah! Hoorah!
In another world entirely, the Saints take the fight to the stars. Boss, Pierce, Shandi, and even Johnny Cat are battling through space, disabling force fields and clashing with luchadors among the stars. But as Boss tries to revive his crew one by one, each one of them falls in dramatic fashion, leaving him to face Killbane alone. In true Star Wars fashion, Killbane drops a bombshell, claiming that he is the boss's father. Boss screams no and launches into a final duel. After an intense fight, Boss emerges victorious, standing tall, delivering his triumphant monologue, only to stumble over his lines. The camera pans back, revealing the whole thing is just a movie set for Saints in space. It's a completely tongue-in-cheek twist, ending the game not on a tragedy or triumph, but a light-hearted meta-gag that perfectly captures the absurd humor Saints Row is remembered for.
I came to Mars to make a living, keep my head down, stay out of trouble. But I found something. But I found something that... Shh, damn it. Line.
Cut!
Sorry, you get it next time.
Everybody back to one. Settle, we're rolling. Speed.
All right, people, big smiles. It's a happy ending. And action.
What makes Saints Row the Third fascinating is how much of his story feels like a Hollywood blockbuster. Watching Boss pull off insane stunts, whether it's falling out of planes, free falling in a tank, or parachuting straight into a penthouse gunfight, at times this game doesn't feel like a game at all, but a full-on action movie. And that's by design. The game constantly leads into spectacle, and while it's packed with comedic moments, it never loses that sense of cinematic flair. Take the way Boss performs wrestling moves on civilians. Every time the camera lingers and Boss flashes a cheesy grin straight at the player, it's pure slapstick comedy. Or look at the beginning of the game, opening with a Star Wars style crawl set to the theme of 2001's A Space Odyssey. Volition wasn't subtle. They wanted you to know you were about to play something absurd, something larger than life. Even the endings lean into parody. In the good ending, Killbane drops the most over-the-top reveal possible.
I am your father. What?
And then, just when you think the story is pushing into pure science fiction, the game pulls back the curtain to reveal Gangsters in Space, a film within a film. Now, of course, we know Saints Row 4 would take things in a completely different direction, but at this point in development, with THQ's struggles behind the scenes, it's easy to imagine that Volition might have been experimenting with the idea of the third being a meta story. When you try to categorize this game's narrative, it doesn't fit neatly into one box. It's tragedy, comedy, action, and most importantly, revenge all rolled together. And while that blend makes the third stand on its own, it also highlights the tension within the Saints themselves. At times, the lifestyle feels bougie, almost too glamorous, and clashes with the original identity of the gang. That's why a character like Johnny Gat stands out so much. Gat knew what the Saints represented at their core, and he's the first to question whether the path they're on has taken them too far from their roots.
What happened?
We got arrested.
No, to us. Burke's right. We traded our dicks in for pussies. Seriously. Movie deals, commercials. Saint's name used to mean something more than body spray and some ass-tasting energy drink.
Our brand's worth a shitload of money.
Is that what it's all about?
It's always about the money, Mr. Gat.
Now, this means something major, because when you take Saints Row 1, 2, and the third, and line them up with what was happening behind the scenes, you start to see a pattern. In the first game, player is silent, just trying to make a name for himself. That mirrors the franchise at the time. Saints Row was a new kid on the block, trying to prove itself in a world where Grand Theft Auto was dominating the genre. Just like player earning his stripes, the game earned recognition. And just as the story ends with an explosion, the franchise itself was rocked by the bombshell of constant comparisons to GTA. By Saints Row 2, player evolves into the boss, and the narrative is all about building a name and reminding people of who the Saints are. Behind the scenes, the same thing was happening. Volition wanted players to stop seeing Saints Row as a clone and start seeing it as GTA's biggest competition. The tone struck a balance, serious at its core, but peppered with humor to show it could hold on its own. Then comes the third. The Saints are at their peak, media darlings instead of just a street gang. Losing Gad wasn't just a story beat. It symbolized the franchise leaving behind its gang simulator roots. Volition needed to stand out, and that meant embracing a louder, flashier identity. While Saints Row 2 leaned on dark themes with light jokes sprinkled in, the third swung the other way. Commercially funny, a full-blown parody of fame, power, and action movies. But here's the kicker. Julius warned Boss in Saints Row 2 the Saints were becoming the Vice Kings in purple.
All we did was turn into Vice Kings that wore purple.
Everybody listen up. We got some serious shit to discuss.
Listen up, people. I got some serious shit to discuss.
Shorty, you got the Sons of Samdi.
It's gotta be them.
Fuck you say?
Troy, you dealing with the Vice Kings.
Not a chance.
Fuck you say?
Once we're done here, talk to one of these guys. I have something for you to do.
Once we're done here, go talk to one of these guys. They'll have something for you to do.
It's our time now. Let's get this shit started.
It's our time now. Let's get this shit started.
Talk to one of these guys, they'll have things for you to do. It's our time now. Let's get this shit started.
Now, nowhere is that more obvious than here. The Saints traded grit for glitz, becoming the very thing they once fought against. That's why Johnny Gat's absence stings so much. His character was the soul of the gang, the one who would question whether the Saints had lost their way. And that question hangs heavy when Killbane delivers his monologue.
Oh, fuck me.
So here we are, two titans among men, worshipped by mere mortals for bringing them blood and fire. This moment was an inevitability.
So's me killing you.
No. That's not how this book is written. The Saints' legacy ends here, not with a bang, but with a whimper.
You for real? It's over, Eddie. In 2 weeks, no one's gonna remember your name.
No one will remember me. You were a fucking clown, selling energy drinks and lunchboxes. You didn't care about the crowd, just a paycheck. And I changed that.
Bullshit.
Mark my words. When these hands are crushing your throat, your dying breath won't be an appeal to God or a message of love to your family. It'll be, thank you, Killbane.
Even though it's a non-canonical branch to the story, that moment says a lot about the Saints' trajectory. They were never supposed to become this larger-than-life brand, but here they are. And while the pain of the past still lingers for Boss, it fuels him to keep leading the gang even as they evolve into something entirely different. Now, one of the things I love about Saints Row the Third is the callbacks to earlier games, but if you're not familiar with the first two, a lot of these moments fly over your head. And honestly, this is where the game quietly shows the consequences of being tied to the Saints. If you look closely in Kinsey's warehouse, you'll notice she's got articles pinned up about aliens, zombies, and even Ultor. But the one that stands out the most is an article about Lynn. There's even a moment where Pierce casually takes it off the wall and slips it into his pocket. It feels like there could have been more to that thread, as if Volition wanted to pull it into a larger story. You get another nod during the zombie missions with Mayor Reynolds, where Boss directly mentions Lynn. Later, Kia digs even deeper during her taunts, calling out Carlos, Lynn, and even Gap, telling Boss all he ever does is let his friends die. And that line hits harder if you played the bad ending first, because Pierce's question, was it worth it, really makes you reflect on the cost of leadership in the Saints. The series has always been about revenge and retaliation, but here, the grief doesn't land the same. Gat's death is huge, but the game barely slows down. The Saints just keep moving like nothing happened. Compare that to Saints Row 2, where Boss lost Carlos and retaliated by making Mara run over his girlfriend, or when Gat was stabbed and Boss fought like hell to rush into the hospital. Back then, Boss's grief was raw and personal. Here, siding with Zemos and Pierce while Shawnee is still reeling over Gat feels almost out of character.
Johnny's dead and you're throwing a fucking party?
Well, when you say it like that, sure it sounds bad.
I was saddled up in a human pony show. But you see me crying about a little girl?
I swear to God, I will shove that thing down your throat hole.
Whoa, Shandi. We can't mourn Gat forever. Eventually, you gotta get back on the horse. No offense, brother.
He's right.
Whatever.
Damn, girl! Life is for the living and shit!
Going back to what I said about Jessica, that moment carries weight far beyond Saints Row 2. In the third, Stagg is able to politicize her death, using it as propaganda to sway the people of Steelport. It's a perfect example of how the Saints' past decisions come back to haunt them, and how the consequences ripple into the future. This game leans into that theme of consequence in a big way. Boss is constantly making choices, from blowing up buildings to rescuing women from the Morningstar to deciding whether Shawnee lives or dies. Each decision adds to the mythology of the Saints, shaping Boss's story. It's autonomy in action, Every choice raises the question of whether Boss is growing as a leader or sinking deeper into the violence and chaos that surrounds him. That's why Cyrus's speech lands so hard. He says out loud what we've already known about the Saints, that their actions have consequences, and those choices shape not just the crew, but the city around them. In a way, it's the game pointing the mirror back at us, reminding us to be careful about the paths we choose.
How will Stag impact our daily lives?
When we win the war on urban terror, you and your families will be safe again.
Sir, that's not what I asked.
Let me tell you about Jessica Parrish, a girl from Stillwater who ran away from home to be with her tough guy boyfriend. Jessica thought her life was pretty sweet, until a gangbanger kidnapped her, threw her in the trunk of a car, and laughed as her boyfriend crushed her in a monster truck rally. If Jessica Parrish was your daughter, how far would you want me to go? Thank you for your time.
Now let's talk about Stag, the modern day Masako unit. Officially known as the Special Tactical Anti-Gang Unit, they entered the story because of the Syndicate, but instead of targeting the real threat, they set their sights on the Saints, branding them as terrorists while ignoring it was the Luchadors who bombed the Hughes Memorial Bridge. As the story unfolds, Stag becomes the true antagonist. Cyrus Temple's philosophy is clear: meet violence with even more violence. He declares martial law on Steelport, pushes for the activation of the Daedalus, a weapon that would cripple this entire city, and shows zero regard for collateral damage. Compared to past factions like Ultor, who tried to control Stilwater through corruption and intimidation, Stag takes it further. They're willing to destroy the entire city just to eliminate one gang. That raises a question the gang keeps circling back to. Who are the real terrorists here? The Saints may be criminals, but Stag's military overreach is terrifying in its own right. And the way they sell it to the public mirrors real-world propaganda. Using Josh Burke as their poster boy, Stag taps into the Uncle Sam-style recruitment tactics, presenting themselves as a patriotic hero while covering up their destruction. This also highlights a disconnect between Stag and Senator Hughes. Monica Hughes wants to win hearts and minds, but Cyrus only knows how to escalate. That clash of ideology fuels their downfall. And it's all set up in the moment where Josh Burke officially becomes the face of Stag's campaign.
I'm Joshua Burke. Hey, on TV I play Nightblade, an exceptionally good-looking but misunderstood vampire who risks life and limb every week to keep the world safe. The men and women of Stag put their lives on the line every day to protect your city against gang violence. Want to be a real-world hero? Talk to your Stag recruiter today. I know I have.
Nightblade's the face of Stag? Why don't you just put someone in a fucking deer suit?
Hearts and minds will win the war, my dear.
Shock and awe wins wars, Senator. Authorize the Daedalus and this will all be over.
Absolutely not.
That kid's gonna get himself killed.
Will you ensure Josh Burke's safety? Or I'll find someone who can. Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Now on to the other antagonists. What makes Central III so interesting is how each faction inside the Syndicate represents a different kind of crime empire, but also a different piece of what the Saints themselves were becoming. And because of that, the Syndicate was doomed to fail from the start. Take the Deckers. These guys are pure cyberpunks, neon aesthetics, hacking, living in a digital world that feels more like Tron than Steelport. They represent how crime was evolving into technology and spectacle, but in the end, they're more style than substance. Matt Miller is arrogant, cocky, and obsessed with image, and that arrogance cost him everything. He might have been dangerous in cyberspace, but in the real world, his gang never had the backbone to truly stand against the Saints. Then you've got the Luchadors. If the Deckers are about the future, the Luchadors are all about performance. Volition clearly respected wrestling traditions here, especially the idea of the mask. Angel losing his mask is treated like the greatest shame a luchador can feel, while Killbane keeping his mask represents the hollow image he hides behind. The luchadors mirror the Saints in one big way. Both are larger-than-life performers who thrive on spectacle. The difference is the Saints grow stronger through loyalty, while Killbane destroys his own empire from the inside. And then there's the Morning Star. On paper, they should be the syndicate's backbone, corporate, polished, a crime family with business savvy. But the truth is, they fall apart almost too easily. It's almost like they were never the true threat. Lorene's death cuts their legs out early, and even with the DeWinter twins, they don't have the strength to hold Steelport together. Viola switches sides, Kiki dies, and the Morning Star basically become pawns in Killbane's ego trip. That's the beauty of how Volition structured these gangs. Each one represented a part of the Saints' own transformation. Digital spectacle, wrestling theatrics, corporate polish, but none of them could hold the empire together. And that's why the Syndicate was destined to collapse.
We're done here.
Killbane! Relax, you only need one of them. Viola, your sun is setting, but it's not too late. There's still time to grab Apollo's chariot and drive that fucker back across the sky. You feel me?
Yes, Killbane.
Apology accepted. Hey, I'll comp you a VIP faster murder brawl. That'll cheer you up.
Now let's get into character analysis, starting with Boss. By the time we get to Saints Row the 3rd, Boss is a very different character compared to the first two games. In Saints Row 2 and Saints Row 1, Boss was ruthless, calculated, and dead serious about establishing the Saints as the top gang. But here that edge is softened, replaced with a more over-the-top, goofy personality that fits the game's Hollywood blockbuster tone. This shift also reflects Boss's identity crisis. Throughout the game, they're torn between being a gangster or a corporate figurehead, a leader of the Saints or a media icon. The decisions you make, from blowing up buildings to choosing who lives or dies, constantly pushes Boss to decide whether the Saints are still a gang or just purple Vice Kings. What stands out the most is how little emotion Boss shows compared to the past. In Saints Row 2, the grief of losing Carlos or the desperation to save Gat at the hospital gave Boss raw humanity. In the third, even after Gat's death, Boss barely slows down. It's as if that role has swallowed the person, a leader consumed by image and decisions, but no longer vulnerable enough to show how much those choices cost.
Son of a bitch?
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
For a character who's been the heart of the Saints since day one, Johnny Gat's role in Saints Row the 3rd is surprisingly small, but it's also one of the most impactful parts of the story. He's there for the opening bank heist, delivering those classic Gat one-liners. But more importantly, he's the one calling out what the Saints have become. While Boss and Pierce are talking about branding, energy drinks, and movie deals, Gat reminds them of what the Saints used to stand for. His line about trading in their genitalia isn't just crude Gat humor, it's him mourning the soul of the gang. And then, just as quickly as he comes back into the spotlight, he's gone. His sacrifice on the Syndicate plane sets the entire story into motion. What stings is how abrupt it feels. His last words, cut off mid-sentence over intercom, hit harder than any big dramatic death scene could. Gat dies being Gat, charging headfirst into the fight, putting himself on the line for his crew, and refusing to compromise what the Saints meant to him. That's why his absence is felt so strongly throughout the game. With Gat gone, there's no one left to check the Saints when they drift too far into celebrity culture. His voice was the conscience of the gang, and without it, the Saints even leaned further into becoming the very thing he warned them about. What's interesting was Gat was not supposed to die originally. According to Steve Jarros, THQ wanted Gat dead because the game needed more emotional weight, and being honest, the game just glances over his death. It's like nothing, killing the idea of emotional weight entirely.
Why did you kill Johnny?
What?
Why did you kill Johnny?
He didn't originally. No. I mean, like originally he wasn't supposed to die.
I know.
Like, at the first, no. There's a version of the game where he lived the entire way through.
Yeah.
And then THQ said they wanted me to kill Johnny.
Oh, I didn't remember that. It was Danny and Paul.
Yeah, no, because originally he, in the original version, Johnny Gat was captured by Loren and was forced to go and compete in. It's where Genki came from. Originally it was like a Running Man company. I mean, it was the Running Man.
Oh
company.
yeah. I remember
so
that.
Gat was forced to compete, and you rescue Gat from this super competition, and then he's all geared up for revenge, and then people were like, we need to have more like emotional weight. Like, what if we kill Johnny Gat? I'm like, all right, like let's go and we do it. So then we did a version where we kill Johnny Gat. And then I had this scene where Shaundi like gives this eulogy for Gat, and after he gets stabbed to death, and then THQ comes back and like, this is really fucking sad. And the entire plot was now about Shaundi dealing with survivor's guilt, and like there's the moment she cuts her hair and has like her Felicity moment, and this entire thing was all about like my friends dealing with the loss of their friend, and it impacted everything. And then THQ's like, this is fucking depressing, dude. Like, we can't do this shit. I'm like, okay. New plan. And so like he goes and it happens off camera and we don't see it. And I remember in a team meeting, Maitri was like, well, you don't see him on camera, right? And I'm like, no. And they're like, so that means that he's really alive. And I'm like, no, he's dead. He's gonna be fucking dead. He's gonna stay dead. Like, nah, people are gonna like him. And everyone's like, oh, we really want him alive. There was a tag at one point. There was a version of it too, where at the end of there's a tag at the end of the game where they used the cloning technology that made like Oleg and the Brutes that had like they did the DLC with like the silly Johnny tag, but
Right.
originally it was like legit like Johnny Gat is back alive even though you thought he was dead, and he's working for the Syndicate now and he's taking over, and so there was like him as like the kingpin of the bad guys to go and like tee up you having to go and fight Johnny Gat as a villain in a potential Saints Row 4 back in the day before everything all just got out of control. There's a bunch of weird like this story of Saints Row 3 has underwent so many different iterations and changes, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
In just 5 short years, Shaundi evolves more than almost anyone else in the series. Back in Saints Row 2, she was the carefree hippie who smoked too much pot, slept around, and got by with sarcasm more than strategy. But by the time we hit Saints Row the 3rd, she's grown into someone sharper, more focused, and far more serious. The Saints gave her the chance to be more than just a stoner stereotype, and she repays that by treating the crew as her true family. That's why Johnny Gat's death hits her the hardest. For Shaundi, Gat wasn't just another Saint, he was like a brother. From that point forward, revenge is her obsession. She's impatient, intense, and unwilling to tolerate distractions. We see it when she's ready to burn down Powder without hesitation, or when she rips into Pierce and Zemos for throwing a party while the Syndicate is still out there. Shaundi embodies grief in the game, the sharp edge of loss that refuses to dull. What makes her arc so striking is how it contrasts with Boss and Pierce. While they start leaning into their fame and branding, Shaundi never forgets the Saints' roots. To her, the crew isn't just about spray or energy drinks, it's about loyalty and vengeance. That's why her kidnapping later in the story is such a major emotional pivot. Saving Shaundi isn't just about rescuing Lieutenant, it's about preserving the soul of the Saints.
A lot of people with guns in there. We'll go in the back way. You don't think the back's guarded? It's like 2 punks. What about the inside, motherfucker?
Put in your tampons and let's do this.
Saints Row the 3rd is a game where Pierce finally steps into his own as a true lieutenant. Back in Saints Row 2, a lot of his ideas were brushed off and his role was often downplayed compared to Shaundi. But here, he's not only taken seriously, Boss actually follows through on his plans. Whether it's scoping out the Morningstar penthouse or pushing money laundering operations, Pierce proves himself as someone who can think strategically, and for once, the Saints let him shine. What's interesting is how Pierce balances the life of a celebrity with the life of a soldier. He's part of the branding machine, the music, the commercials, the image, but he's still not afraid to get his hands dirty when it counts. And while some of his motives remain subtle, like quietly pocketing Lynn's picture from Kinsey's wall, his passion for the Saints feels genuine. He's not just riding the wave of fame. He believes in the crew and wants to see Boss make the right decision to keep them together. By this point, Pierce isn't just comic relief anymore. He's a veteran of the Saints, someone Boss can depend on when things get rough. And when the choice comes down to saving Shaundi or chasing Killbane, Pierce is the first to advocate for saving family over chasing revenge. It shows how much he's grown, from the overlooked sidekick to a trusted voice of reason who will always stand by Boss.
This doesn't seem like your kind of place, Pierce.
What's the hate? Beer's cheap, and I'm the best looking motherfucker in here.
Look, you may think it's time to kick back, but I'm done toying with these bastards. I want Loren and I want him now. So where is he?
No idea. But 10K says he's hiding out in that big ass skyscraper.
Nah, Loren's a tactician. He's not gonna hole up in a building that screams, I'm a criminal mastermind. I need something concrete.
To hit up Powder.
Nah, I don't have time for a stripper.
No, Powder's a designer gun store downtown. I saw some of Loren's thugs talking to the owner. There's gotta be something there.
All right, let's go shopping.
Oleg stands apart from almost every other Saint. Unlike Shawnee or Pierce, he didn't join the crew out of loyalty or ambition. He joined because the enemy of his enemy was his friend. But over time, he proved himself to be much more than just an ally of convenience. Oleg quickly became one of the most surprising members of the Saints, not just for his size, but for his intelligence. Despite being a literal giant, Oleg isn't defined by brute force. He has the kind of sharp mind that can keep pace with Kinsey's technical jargon, understanding the details of her nerd talk, when most of the crews are scratching their heads. He carries himself with calm confidence, able to control his emotions in situations where others lose their cool. In a lot of ways, Oleg shows the Saints and us players that he's not just a weapon, he's a man of reason and thought. But he's not infallible. For all his brilliance, Oleg could never outthink Pierce in their ongoing chess matches. It's a small but fitting reminder that brains in this crew come in many different forms. In the end, Oleg embodies balance, strength, intelligence, and loyalty, all wrapped up in a character who started as an outsider but became a true saint in his own right.
I'll explain it again real slow. I want to broadcast your subconscious into the Decker usernet. Then you'll be able to interact with the avatars of users and corrupt the abstract representations of data that are the cornerstone of their online operation. To do that, I need
a Nemo chair, of course.
A what chair?
Nemo, neurological electromagnetic oneiroscope. The KGB destroyed the only one in existence.
Deckers have one.
Impossible. How could they miss the signal?
They're keeping it here.
Clever.
Okay, nerd time is over. What is this thing? And Kinsey, for fuck's sake, keep it simple.
I need the chair to stop the Deckers.
Thank you.
Zemos is one of the harder characters to really analyze because, truthfully, he's underutilized in Saints Row. His introduction promises a lot. A flamboyant pimp who was once strong enough to compete with the Morningstar, locked up because he was considered a legitimate threat to their business. That backstory alone sets him up as someone who could have brought a fresh perspective to the Saints Empire. But instead, most of his role boils down to comedy and excess. He's far more concerned with rebuilding his own business than with pushing the Saints forward. His loyalty is never really in question, but his priorities are clear: women, money, and keeping his operation alive. Compared to other lieutenants like Kinsey or Angel, Zemos never becomes central to the larger mission of the Saints. And maybe that's the point. Zemos represents the absurd, over-the-top lifestyle the Saints are slipping into. More interested in spectacle and indulgence than the grit that defined them back in Stillwater. As funny as he is, he's more symbol than substance. and that's why he often feels like a side act in the Saints' bigger story.
That is one ugly fucking painting.
You fucking Philistine. What you know about art? That's it, the Winter Sisters original. Bought that back in the day when me and the twins were all live and let live.
Well, seeing how we just let them know we taking over their business, I doubt that deal's gonna hold.
Shit. Remember the pony show? I've been off that Christmas list a long time. Anyway, I didn't call you over to talk about me. You killed Philippe Loren and showed the Morning Star that you are here to stay. Time to relax and cut loose, baby.
No, we'll party once the work's done. I'll call you when I make another move against the Morning Star.
Kinsey is one of the biggest assets the Saints gain in Steelport. For Boss, she becomes another strategist, someone who could actually think ahead, map out a plan, and give the Saints the upper hand against enemies that thrive on chaos. Her mission with the Deckers really showcased her strength. While most Saints rely on firepower, Kinsey's greatest weapon is a keyboard. She dismantles an entire cyber gang, not with brute force, but with precision hacks and calculated moves. What makes Kinsey stand out even more is how different she is socially. She's awkward, often aloof, and has a hard time connecting with people. It's clear she's more comfortable talking code than making small talk, but that's exactly why her place in the Saints matters so much. After being booted from the FBI, Kinsey finds something she didn't expect: a new home. With the Saints, her quirks aren't often a weakness, they're part of what makes her invaluable. In a crew that thrives on style and spectacle, Kinsey proves that brains can just be as powerful as brawn. She's the Saints' quiet weapon, the one who stays in the shadows while making sure the crew can shine in the spotlight.
Activity would want to live it up a little more.
Not really. I hate people.
Oh. Okay, so do you have anything on the Deckers?
Not yet.
Okay, then what have you been doing since you got out?
Power leveling.
You killing me, Kinsey.
I can't help you take down the Deckers until I know where they're hiding. So I wrote a program that tracks the user's physical location while they're logged on.
That's awesome.
Just play the damn game and I can pinpoint where the Deckers are in real life.
And now we're talking.
Angel de la Muerte is one of the most fascinating additions to Saints Row because his arc is tied to wrestling. For him, it's not just about fighting Killbane. It's about regaining his mask and with it, his dignity. In Lucha Libre culture, the mask isn't just a costume, it's an identity, and losing it is considered the greatest possible shame. Volition leaned into that tradition with real respect, making Angel's struggle feel authentic, even in a game that's so often about parody. The story echoes real-world wrestling history. In Mexico, once a wrestler loses their mask, they can never wear it again unless they receive special permission. You saw this happen with Rey Mysterio, who wrestled without a mask in WCW, but when he transitioned back to WWE, he was able to put the mask on again under different circumstances. Angel's arc plays directly into that same cultural weight. Losing the mask meant losing himself, and reclaiming it was the only way to restore his pride. And it all fits perfectly when you realize his wrestling name, Angel de la Muerte, translates to Angel of Death. His very identity is tied to a legacy of honor, tragedy, and fight over something bigger than himself. In a game filled with over-the-top characters, Angel grounds it with authenticity, showing how spectacle can still carry real emotional weight.
Living in this shithole.
To remind me of what Killbane took from me. It keeps me focused.
Whatever works for you, man. I'm just saying. I like my place to have working heat.
So you hate discomfort. That's the sort of weakness the luchadors will capitalize on. Unless you harden up, Killbane will crush you. But don't worry, I'll chisel you out of diamond.
How?
By making you experience the worst pain imaginable. Now come on. It's time for you to play in traffic.
Right on. Wait, what?
Viola DeWinter starts out as one half of the Morningstar's icy financial duo, running the syndicate profits with her sister Kiki while keeping Philip Loren's empire polished and efficient. She's ruthless in business, calculating in demeanor, and tied tightly to the world of the syndicate. But what makes Viola such an interesting character is how quickly her arc shifts after Killbane snaps Kiki's neck in a fit of rage. That single moment changes everything. Suddenly, Viola's loyalty isn't to the syndicate anymore. It's to revenge. Her defection to the Saints is one of the game's biggest turning points because she represents the collapse of the Morning Star. Once she joins up, she proves herself surprisingly useful, helping Boss with strategy, acting as a disguise partner with the Josh Burke kidnapping, and even standing strong against stag assaults. What's more, she's not afraid to clash with the Saints themselves. She openly complains about the absurdity of the disguise outfit, showing she has her own standards, even when she's playing along. Viola's arc is about transformation. From polished heiress to hardened ally, she's not fully trusted by everyone, and she's not the type to throw herself into the gang lifestyle, where her role becomes essential, especially when she's the one to point out the best way to take down Killbane is to unmask him. In many ways, Viola represents what happens when loyalty to family and tradition shatters. The only thing left is vengeance.
Alright, I'm done fucking around. I want Killbane.
You want to hurt Killbane? You gotta hurt his reputation.
So, what, we humiliate him?
Can't we just kill the bastard?
Take Killbane's mask and all that's left is Eddie Pryor. It's worse than killing him.
I don't know, this more Angel's thing.
Killbane would never agree to fight Angel.
He's more scared of Angel than me?
Yeah, no offense, but you're kind of ridiculous.
Relax. You're gonna look hot in a Speedo.
Philippe Loren is one of the strangest cases in Saints Row because he's built up to feel like a major player, yet his screen time is shockingly small. We only see him a handful of times, but the way the game frames him early on, suave, commanding, the kind of villain who controls Steelport from the top down, makes his presence huge. He's the face of the Morning Star, the one pulling the strings behind the Syndicate, and for a while it seems like he'll be the big bad of the entire game. That's why his death is so surprising. For all the setup, he's gone almost as soon as the story starts rolling. Loren doesn't get the long, drawn-out arc of a Killbane or the flamboyance of a Matt Miller. Instead, he's crushed in a moment more shocking than satisfying. It works in showing how unstable the Syndicate really is. If their leader can fall easily, their whole empire is bound to crumble. But it also leaves you wondering what might have been if Loren stayed in the bigger picture.
You have any idea who you fucking with here?
Of course. A remarkable likeness. These visions are Viola and Kiki, and I am Philippe Laurent, chairman of a multinational organization called the Syndicate.
Never heard of it.
Evidently not, or you would not have robbed our bank. Perhaps you wonder why you are still breathing at this point.
Actually, I wonder why my foot's not up your ass at this point.
Like it or not, Mr. Gatt, our organization is expanding into Stilwater. I am offering you the chance to leverage your assets against your lives. Ladies?
You may continue to operate the Saints Ultor Media Group as you see fit, in exchange for 66% of your monthly gross revenue.
That is before taxes, of course.
Listen, you French fuck.
Please. I am Belgian.
So make yourself a fucking waffle. We done here.
And I had so hoped to come to a rational business arrangement.
Killbane is a perfect embodiment of what Saints Row III is all about. Spectacle, ego, and corruption. On the surface, he's everything you'd expect from a larger-than-life villain, a masked luchador, the leader of the Syndicate after Loren's fall, and a man who thrives on theatrics. But underneath all the bravado is a coward who hides behind his mask, his reputation, and his army of followers. What makes Killbane so interesting is how much he contrasts with Angel. Angel represents the dignity and tradition of a lucha libre, where the mask is sacred. Killbane twists that tradition into something hollow. He's more concerned with keeping his image than respecting the code of wrestling, and when Boss is given the chance to unmask him, it becomes one of the most symbolic moments in the entire game. To strip Killbane of the mask is to strip him of his power, leaving him nothing but the fragile man underneath. But the mask isn't his only weakness. Killbane's ego ends up destroying the Syndicate from the inside out. His impulsiveness leads him to kill Kiki, alienating his allies, and his obsession with spectacle blinds him to the real threat the Saints pose. In the end, Killbane is a villain who talks bigger than he fights, and when that illusion crumbles, so does everything he built.
What's up?
You need to see this.
Fortunately, this exclusive footage has come to light, and with us live, the man responsible, Eddie Kilbane Pryor. Thanks for being here, Eddie.
My pleasure, Jane. And please, call me Kilbane.
Very well. Kilbane, there are some who claim you're a criminal.
No, Jane, my dear, please. The Saints are criminals. Call me eccentric, but I'm just an entertainer / businessman / philanthropist /
We get it.
Where are they?
No idea. They're broadcasting from an undisclosed location.
Well, fucking disclose it!
I might be able to triangulate where they're shooting if you go to the broadcast towers and...
We're on it.
Matt Miller is the youngest and flashiest of the Syndicate lieutenants, a cyberpunk kid who lives more in the digital world than the real one. His gang, the Deckers, are all about neon aesthetics, hacking, and style over substance. And that's the problem with Matt. He's arrogant, cocky, and more concerned with his image than with actual power. In the end, he's more of a hacker in a chair than a real-life threat on the streets. But what makes Matt Miller stand out is less his arc and more his performance. He's voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, the same actor who played Sasuke Uchiha in Naruto. For Saints Row fans, it's a callback because he also voiced Shogo Okuji in Saints Row 2. Hearing the same actor who brought Shogo's downfall to life now giving his voice to Matt Miller adds a neat layer of continuity, even if Miller himself is more flash than fire. Ultimately, Miller is a perfect example of speech over substance. He can crash helicopters with the EMP, build an entire virtual world behind him, and taunt the Saints from the safety of cyberspace. But when Boss beats him on his own turf, Miller does what Shogo never could. He runs. His exit shows he was never built to lead, only to pose.
I really wish you'd reconsider, Matty. These hands of mine were meant to rend bone, not hunt and peck on a keyboard.
Well, if typing's the issue, I can recommend some good voice recognition software. I know the best...
Shh. You stuck with me when I rose from Philippe's ashes like a phoenix. You and me, we've bonded.
That's lovely, but I feel it's time for me to move on. To be honest, I'm a little scared of, well, dying.
I do run a demanding workplace. Matty, I appreciate how you shared your concerns. I mean, the way Viola and Kiki handled their departures made me just want to kill someone, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I've got a flight to catch, so...
Matty.
Oh, God.
Feel free to list me as a reference anytime.
Kia and Cyrus Temple are cut from the same cloth. By any means necessary characters who will stop at nothing to crush the Saints. And that's what makes them two of the worst, but also some of the best antagonists in the game. Cyrus is the face of Stag, a hard-nosed military commander who doesn't care about collateral damage. For him, Steelport isn't a city full of people, it's just a battlefield, and the Saints are terrorists and need to be eradicated. Kia mirrors that same intensity. She's ruthless, unrelenting, and always trying to prove herself, constantly pushing for escalation. Together, the two of them embody the idea of enemies who are always one step ahead, willing to burn the whole board just to win the game. What makes them effective villains is how far they are willing to go. Martial law, propaganda, the daedalus superweapon, even strapping Shawnee and Viola to bombs at the Steelport Monument. For Kia and Cyrus, nothing is off limits. They blur the line between protector and oppressor, and that moral gray area makes you stop and wonder if they're really fighting for crime or just becoming a bigger threat than the gangs they claim to fight.
You knew it would come to martial law, didn't you?
I knew the Saints. How did Mayor Reynolds react?
They'll fall in line. They all will.
Keep me updated, Commander.
Of course, ma'am.
Sir, the commandos are en route. We'll have the whole city locked down in 72 hours.
Outstanding. Thank you, Kia.
Permission to speak freely? It's about damn time we took off the kid gloves.
Two little words, Kia. Shock and awe.
Monica Hughes is one of the most underrated throw lines of the Saints Row series. Back in Saints Row 2, she was the mayor of Stillwater, standing firm against the chaos of the Saints and Ultor. By the time we reach the third, she's moved up the political ladder, now a U.S. Senator, proof that even after her husband's death, she's still climbing, still wielding influence. Her character is fascinating because she doesn't fight with guns or gangs, she fights with politics and public opinion. Monica lives for the narrative, for how things look. That's why, depending on the ending, we see two very different sides of her. In the good ending, she's forced to give the Saints credit, framing them as heroes because that's what the public now believes. But in the bad ending, when she allows Cyrus to unleash the data list, she has to live with the consequences of siding with the escalation, watching Steelport suffer as the Saints retaliate. This duality makes her more reactive than proactive. She doesn't shape events so much as spin them, bending them with political wind instead of setting her own course. In a way, Monica represents the system itself, self-preserving, opportunistic, and more concerned with optics and outcomes. And in Steelport, optics are everything.
And while no group has taken credit for the attack in Stillwater, we have ignored its root cause. Our uncontrolled media and the good soul to our children have fetishized gang culture and turned sociopathic madmen into heroes. No more! Those responsible for this act of terror will be found and held accountable. The Stag Initiative marks a milestone in taking back the streets of America.
Saints Row the Third takes a lot of the elements from the first two games and changes them in some big waves. One of the biggest shifts was the removal of the respect system. In Saints Row 1 and 2, you had to grind activities to earn respect before unlocking the next story mission. Here, that barrier is gone. You could jump straight through the story, and if you're speedrunning, you can beat the entire game in about 4 to 6 hours. Instead of being tied to story progression, activities like mayhem and insurance fraud are folded directly into missions, giving them more narrative weight. Escort even gets reimagined. This time you might be driving around with a tiger in the passenger seat or working with Professor Ginky in the DLC. But with that change, a lot of classic activity-based unlockables are gone. In their place, Volition added a full leveling system. As you rank up, you gain access to upgrades, letting you customize bosses' abilities and survivability however you want. Combat also got a facelift. Gone are the fighting styles from Saints Row 2. Instead, boss now busts out wrestling moves, even posing afterwards for extra flair. A change that leans into the game's over-the-top personality. Weapons can now be upgraded too, which becomes essential as enemy difficulty ramps up later in the campaign. But not every change was for the better. One removal that still stings is the theater feature. In Saints Row 1 and 2, you could rewatch cutscenes you had unlocked, but here that option is gone. With how funny over the top some of these moments are, if you didn't record them, the only way back is to start a new playthrough. One of the biggest strengths of Saints Row the Third is how much pure fun it squeezes out of its sandbox. This isn't a game about realism, it's about making you laugh, making you feel powerful, and keeping you entertained whether you're chasing story missions or just messing around in Steelport. You'll notice it right away in the physics. Crash into another car and it might go flying like a toy, letting you zip underneath it. Little touches like that give the world almost a cartoonish energy, setting it apart from something like Grand Theft Auto, which always lean towards realism. Missions themselves are simple in structure, but widely varied in execution. You'll get prompts on your phone, drive here, blow up this convoy, protect a buddy, or in true Saints fashion, like I said, escort a tiger in the passenger seat. That blend of straightforward objectives with over-the-top scenarios keeps the pacing fresh. On top of that, weapons might not be as numerous as some other shooters, but the upgrade system makes each one feel valuable. You can add extended mags, explosive rounds, faster fire rates, or even turn a pistol into something ridiculous. And then, of course, you got the Saints Row style funny weapons, the kind that make you laugh just pulling the trigger. Customization has always been a cornerstone of the series, and here it's a mixed bag. On one hand, the character creator is more detailed than ever, letting you really shape your boss's look and personality. On the other hand, clothing took a step back. Gone are the deep layering options for Saints Row 2, or even the wear options that it also contained. Instead, you've got simpler tops, pants, shoes, hats, and glasses with color swaps as your main way of personalization. Cars, though, are as customizable as ever. You can trick out your garage with dozens of rides, tweak their looks, boost their performance, and show them off whenever you want. The game also piles on extra content to keep you busy after the credits roll. Activities return with a fresh coat of paint, assassination contract, chop shop vehicle requests, and urban takeovers all give you reasons to keep roaming the city. On top of that, there are challenges that push you to rack up headshots, blow up tanks, or slide around Steelport for miles. It adds layers of replay value, and if you're a completionist, it's going to keep you grinding for hours. And then there's co-op. You can run the entire campaign with a friend, which honestly doubles the chaos and comedy. Or you can dive into Horde mode, a parody of Gears of War Horde mode, where you fight wave after wave of enemies under increasingly ridiculous conditions. It's silly, frantic, and feels like the perfect Saints Row twist on a popular mode at the time. Of course, we can't ignore the soundtrack. Like any great sandbox, the radio is part of the experience. You'll find stations stacked with everything from rap to reggae to old school classics. Tracks like Return of the Mac, You're the Best Around, No Easy Way Out add a nostalgic punch, making even the dumbest joyride feel like a music video. Some stations won't be for everyone, but the variety is wide enough that you'll find something to vibe with. And if not, you can always turn the radio off and cause destruction in silence. At the end of the day, Saints Row 3 doesn't try to be the most realistic or the most polished, but it nails what it's set out to do. Give you a playground of chaos packed with humor, spectacle, and endless ways to make your own fun. Saints Row 3 originally launched for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Microsoft Windows on November 15, 2011 for both North American markets and Australian markets, on November 18, 2011 for European markets as well. All three versions released day and date, and at the time, the game was considered feature complete across platforms. On console, you had a stable, polished experience with the expected pop-in and frame dips of that generation. The PC version, however, stood out for players who wanted higher resolutions, smoother frame rates, and modding potential. While the art direction wasn't chasing realism like GTA 4, the game's bold style held up across all versions and fit perfectly with the series' identity. Saints Row 3, the full package, was released. This port included all the DLC right out of the box and gave players a chance to cause chaos on the go. This was also released for the PlayStation 3 as well. That said, the Switch version wasn't perfect. Early builds suffered from performance issues like frame drops and input lag. Later patches smoothed some of that out, but the port still ran close to the original console versions in the PC release. Still, for handheld play and portability, it was a fun way to experience Steelport. Then in 2020, Volition and Spearsoft released Saints Row 3 Remastered on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, later expanded to the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. This was more than a simple upscale. The remaster delivered a complete visual overhaul with new lighting systems, improved reflections, and a far more detailed character models, vehicles, and environments. Population density in Steelport was increased, explosions looked better, and the entire city felt more alive. On the flip side, the redesign sparked debate. Some fans missed the original art style, especially with how certain characters looked in the remaster. And while the remaster offered higher resolution and frame rate options, it also introduced some new bugs like clipping and awkward animations. In terms of content, the remaster is definitive. It packs all the DLC, giving you the full Saints Row 3 experience in one package. If you want the best visual presentation and modern performance, this is the version to grab. But if you prefer the raw, less polished look of the original, especially on PC with mods, the 2011 release still has its own charm. The Switch version sits somewhere in the middle. Not the best looking or the smoothest, but it's the only way to bring Steelport to you on the go. When Saints Row the Third dropped in 2011, it landed with what Metacritic calls generally favorable reviews. And that's pretty accurate. Most critics agreed on one thing: this game wasn't trying to be anything other than a good time. Words like ridiculous, zany, and absurd kept showing up in reviews. Some loved it for that, while others dismissed it as juvenile. Either way, Volition made sure nobody could mistake this one for another GTA clone. Critics praised the sheer degree of customization, from your boss to your cars to your crib. The third lets you stamp your personality everywhere. The activities got mixed feedback. Not everyone loved escorting a tiger through Steelport, but missions like Professor Ginky's super ethical reality climax stood out as highlights. Some even called it the perfection of the Saints Row formula, the point where the series finally carved out its own lane. The game earned the IGN Editor's Choice Award, perfect scores from G4 and Games Radar, and even snagged nomination for Action Game of the Year at the 15th Annual Interactive Achievement Awards. But that doesn't mean everyone was sold. Edge compared the series to being the WarioWare of open world crime games, a cartoon flip book of anything goes extremity. To them, Saints Row's pure imagination deserved respect, but it also bordered on meaningless at times, drowning the player in shock value without commentary. Eurogamer would even further, pointing out that some of the ironic sexism, especially in missions like Trojan Whores or the Hobo, slid too close to outright misogyny. Other critics echoed that the humor sometimes missed the mark, turning from absurd to cringeworthy. Visually, the third didn't blow people away. IGN said the graphics were average for the time. Steelport's neon skyscrapers looked great, but the city itself felt lifeless. Pop-in and technical hiccups were common in complaints across platforms. That said, reviewers widely praised the voice acting and the soundtrack, whether it was blasting Return to the Mac or listening to other songs in the middle of the mission. The soundtrack became part of the fun. Where the game really won people over was its focus on fun. Critics said almost every action felt rewarding, whether you were leveling up, buying properties, or just causing chaos in Steelport. It was a sandbox that never ran out of toys, and if you ran out of story missions, there were challenges, assassinations, and city takeovers to keep you busy. Co-op play was a mixed bag. Some felt the missions weren't designed with 2 players in mind, while others called it one of the best examples of a feature done right. For average players, the reaction was much the same. What stuck out most was how unapologetically fun the game was. The physics leaned into the absurd, cars went flying, bodies ragdolled across the street, and it made Steelport feel like a giant playground. Missions piled on that same energy, from free-falling shootouts to tiger-filled escorts, and the variety of activities kept things fresh. Even after finishing the story where assassinations, chop-side missions, collectibles, and challenges that gave people reasons to stick around. Co-op and horde mode were especially praised, letting friends dive headfirst into chaos together. That said, longtime fans noticed what was missing. Compared to Saints Row 2, there were fewer distinct activities, no mission replay option, and clothing customization took a step back with the loss of layering. Some players also ran into bugs, from pop-in to missing glitches through, though these were rarely enough to stop the fun. And while many loved the off-the-wall humor, others felt parts went too far or just landed flat, with Zemos becoming a common example of a character who pushed the cringe factor. Still, the consensus from players was clear. Saints Row the Third didn't just copy GTA. For a lot of people, it actually outfunned it. The story might have been shorter, but the game's sheer personality, customization, and anything goes freedom cemented it as a highlight of the generation. For many fans, Saints Row 2 remained the most balanced entry, but the third was seen as the moment Volition truly leaned into what made the series unique. In the end, Saints Row the Third was divisive but unforgettable. Some reviewers cringed at the juvenile humor, while others celebrated it as Volition finally stepping out of GTA's shadow. What everyone agreed on was that it was bold, unapologetic, and fun. And for many, it cements Saints Row as a franchise that could stand on its own. Telling you the truth, growing up, I wasn't the biggest fan of Saints Row the Third, and that was mainly because I had just come off of playing Saints Row 2. It's like when you watched a blockbuster movie and you're wondering, how do they top this? And for me, back then, the third game didn't. The removal of Gat rubbed me the wrong way. and I felt like we missed some big story beats. Troy gets a quick reference, Dex doesn't show up after being such a key part in the first game, and it just doesn't click with me. But now, revisiting it years later, playing through the whole series in full context and learning about the behind the scenes development, I get it. I set my bias aside for this video, and honestly, this game is pretty good. I'm sure the AI can be dumb as a rock. I lost count of how many times I watched them run in circles instead of getting into my car. And yes, my car glitched more than once. For the record, I'm playing on the PS3. Was it perfect? No. Was it fun? Absolutely. The comedic overtones had me laughing all the way to the joystick, and that alone made the ride worth it. I picked up the full package so I can experience everything, and after wrapping up this video, honestly, I want to keep playing. The characters feel different here. I had to remind myself 5 years had passed in the story since Saints Row 2. That makes their growth, or in some cases regression, make sense. But what really stands out is that Volition knew they couldn't just keep living in someone else's shadow. Constant comparisons to GTA pushed them to go in a completely different direction, and they ran with it. If you still look at Saints Row the Third and think GTA clone, I've got to assume you've either heard that somewhere and ran with it, or you're ignoring the fact that this game carved out its own identity. If you've never played it, give it a shot. Just because it's the third game doesn't mean you need to know the full backstory. And once you hit that Kanye West power mission, trust me, the words GTA clone won't even cross your mind again. With its lights, characters, and over-the-top style, Saints Row the Third didn't just embrace crazy, it embraced Hollywood. If you made it to the end of this video, I applaud you. If you enjoyed it or learned something new, please hit that thumbs up. We're battling the algorithm here. Next week, we're back with the Rockstar Takeover covering Manhunt 2. And the week after that, we're back with Saints Row covering Saints Row 4. This is coming to a channel near you. If you want to stay locked in, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're getting close to 10K. And if you're feeling generous, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. With that said, this is the Retro Phantom, signing out.